Mag parked his bicycle in front of the city lord's castle, and his eyes lit up at the sight of the grand Western-style building. There was a series of white stone pillars, upon which were carved intricate designs. The building itself had a dome roof, with the main color scheme comprised of white and grey. The metal gates at its entrance were wide open, and the words City Lord's Castle had been carved above the gates in a universal language used on the continent. This was Mag's first time visiting the City Lord's Castle. Last time, Dicus had come to him regarding the outdoor dining area, so he had never had the need to visit the City Lord's Castle. As soon as Mag entered through the gates, a familiar voice sounded from behind him. "Boss Mag? Why have you come to the City Lord's Castle? Do you need some help with something?" Mag turned around with a smile, and replied, "Hello there, Mr. Dicus. I'm here to claim a restaurant today, and I need to visit the Aiden Square Management Center to take care of some documents." "Taking over a restaurant? Are you already planning to open a new branch?" Dicus was rather taken aback. "Not at the moment. What happened was that yesterday, a restaurant owner," Mag shook his head with a smile before giving Dicus a brief account of what had happened the night before. Dicus was an official of the City Lord's Castle, so if Mag could secure his help, the process of claiming the restaurant would be significantly simplified. Who would have thought that someone would dare to challenge Boss Mag to a cooking contest? His courage is certainly commendable. Dicus chuckled as he pointed to the gates of the City Lord's Castle, and said, "Seeing as both parties have signed an agreement and there were so many witnesses at the scene, the restaurant's ownership rights do indeed belong to you now. Come with me, I'll take you through the required procedures. You'll have to pay a small administration fee." "Thank you." Mag nodded as he followed Dicus into the City Lord's Castle. The buildings within the City Lord's Castle were constructed in a way that was completely symmetrical from left to right. Many of the workers and officials of the City Lord's Castle entered and exited the building on the left, while the buildings on the right were a lot quieter. The buildings on the left contain the departments that deal with daily matters taking place in Chaos City. They have to process many things every day, so they're always quite busy. The buildings on the right house the departments that are responsible for deploying patrols around Chaos City, so you'll notice that it's a lot more peaceful over there, Dicus explained. "I see. Which department do you belong to in the City Lord's Castle, Mr. Dicus?" Mag asked. "I'm currently in the Secretary Department of the City Lord's Castle, so in reality, I'm just a guy who runs errands," Dicus replied with a smile. "Many people would love to run errands for the City Lord's Castle." Mag chuckled as he surveyed Dicus through a renewed perspective. He didn't know too much about the political structure of the City Lord's Castle, but it was quite clear that this Mr. Dicus wasn't just an ordinary errand boy. Dicus led Mag to an office that had a sign which read Aiden Square Management Center. Within it were about a dozen or so workers wearing uniforms of the City Lord's Castle. A professional-looking middle-aged man rose to his feet with a smile on his face at the sight of Dicus, and asked, "Mr. Dicus, what can I do for you today?" "I'm just showing Mr. Mag the way here. He needs to transfer a restaurant that he won in a contest to his name. Please give him a hand, Mr. Lead." The conference between the dragons and demons was held at Mr. Mag's restaurant last time, Dicus explained with a smile. A hint of surprise appeared in Lead's eyes as he turned to Mag, and said, "I see. Please take a seat, Mr. Mag, our management center will be sure to assist you to the best of our ability. Seeing as you won the restaurant in the contest, may I ask if you brought the agreement along with you?" "I did, here it is." Mag nodded as he produced the agreement which had been signed by both Ricky and himself. Lead was even more surprised after reading through the contents of the agreement, but he still filed it away carefully. He turned to Mag with a smile, and said, "All right, thank you for bringing this copy of the agreement to me. We'll be verifying the authenticity of the agreement as well as the contest, then conduct a valuation of the restaurant before informing you of the results. You'll only need to pay a small administration fee before the ownership rights are transferred to your name." "All right, thank you for your help." Mag nodded in response. He didn't think that the process would be so simple, and it came as a pleasant surprise to him. After all, his time was far more valuable than an administration fee. You're welcome. We'll be getting into contact with you soon, Lead said with a smile. After exiting the management center, Dykus turned to Mag, and asked, I went to visit Principal Heidel this morning, and he told me that some new developments have been made in the steam engine that he's working on. I have to go and inform the city lord of this good news. Is there anything else you would like my help with, Mr. Mag? That's all I came here for today. Thank you for your assistance, Mr. Dykus. Mag shook his head in response. He hadn't seen Heidel for a while, so he didn't know what new developments had been made. This was not necessarily good news for him, as it could force him to accelerate the implementation of his plan. After pondering the issue momentarily, Mag asked, By the way, I'm a little curious about how the City Lord's Castle processed the issue regarding the families of the deceased miners. Would you be able to reveal any details to me, Mr. Dykus? I almost forgot that you were one of the people on the scene when the incident took place. Not only that, but you played an instrumental role during the process. As such, of course I can inform you of the recent developments. Dykus put on a serious expression as he replied, The City Lord's Castle has funded a project to upgrade the living conditions of the families of the deceased miners, and that project is nearing completion. The living conditions of those families will be improved significantly as a result. At the same time, the City Lord's Castle had launched a thorough investigation into the compensation that was withheld from the families and issued those payments again, making sure that the money reached the designated targets this time. All of the children at suitable age in that area were given an opportunity to study at Chaos School, and all of the corrupt officials involved in the case have been detained. They are going to face severe punishment for their actions. I trust that the City Lord's Castle will give all of the families a fair result. Mag nodded in response. These changes were undoubtedly going to completely change the lives of those families, and they showed the sincerity of the City Lord's Castle on this matter. The City Lord once said that if more nosy people like Mr. Mag existed in this world, then Chaos City would be sure to become a better place. Dykus chuckled. I hope to never encounter an incident like this ever again. After all, this is Chaos City, is it not? Mag shook his head as he bade farewell to Dykus before departing. Dykus looked on at Mag's departing figure and smiled as he murmured to himself, the City Lord was right. He is indeed a very interesting man. In the residential area for the families of the deceased miners, the dilapidated grey bungalows had all been replaced by brand new two-story houses. The walls had been painted in vibrant colors like green, blue, pink, and a whole host of other exuberant shades, giving one a false impression that it was spring even though autumn had already arrived. There were many dwarven artisans running around busily between the houses, while powerful orcs did the grunt work. The women and the elderly were painting the walls in exuberant colors, and the smiles on their faces were as vibrant as the colors of the paint being applied. A group of children was running joyfully along the blue stone-paved paths, kicking around a crude football that had been constructed from vines. One of the children kicked the ball through the air, and it just so happened to land in front of a bicycle before being crushed by the bicycle's front tire. Screech Mag hurriedly applied the brakes, but it was already too late. The football had already been flattened into a pancake of vines. All of the children wore dumbstruck expressions as they stared at Mag's bicycle, and then at their crushed ball. Wah! He crushed our ball. We've got nothing to play with now. A child who appeared to be around 4 or 5 years of age burst into tears first. His sobs were seemingly contagious as the 20 or so children with him all burst into tears, causing a loud commotion that drew many adults to the scene. Don't cry, I'll get you an even better ball, how's that? Mag hurriedly waved his hands to try and soothe the children. It's Amy's father. A pleasantly surprised voice suddenly erupted from the group of children. A little girl squeezed her way forward before rushing over to Mag with a joyful expression. She looked up at Mag, and asked, Are you here to see me? Where's Amy? Did she come with you? That's right, I'm here to visit you, Jessica. Amy has lessons today, so she couldn't make it, but you'll be able to see her tonight. Mag patted Jessica's head with a smile on his face. She was still just as adorable as ever. It's you. You're the man from that day. An elderly man's eyes lit up as he identified Mag. All of the adults who were concerned that something had happened to their children were also overjoyed at the sight of Mag. They had clearly also identified their savior. Thank you for saving all of us. The elderly man fell to his knees and began to kowtow to Mag. Everyone else also fell to their knees and dragged their kids down with them as they kowtowed to Mag. Please get up, everyone, I only did something that was to be expected of me. Mag hurriedly set his bicycle aside and helped the elderly man to his feet. Only then did everyone else rise to their feet, but their eyes were still filled with gratitude as they looked at Mag. The sobbing kids looked down at their flattened ball, then up at Mag, and even though there were still tears shimmering in their eyes, none of them were crying anymore. Mag looked at all those pairs of bright eyes with complex emotions surging through his heart. All of them were wearing new clothes, and were already looking much healthier than when he last saw them, but what they had now was something that they should have had all along. They shouldn't have to be so grateful to him just for the basic rights that they were entitled to. The entire crowd fell silent, and Mag was at a loss for words as well. After a brief awkward silence, Mag pointed at the houses with a smile, and said, "Your new houses are very beautiful." Everyone smiled upon hearing that. "Mr. Mag. Welcome." Rebecca rushed out of a pink house with an elated expression while holding a piece of fabric that she was working on. "I'm here to visit Jessica." Mag nodded with a smile. "Please come in and have some water," Rebecca hurriedly offered. Mag was also beginning to feel uncomfortable from the widespread scrutiny he was receiving, and he nodded to acknowledge everyone before entering the pink house with Rebecca and Jessica. The floor in the house was paved with blue stone to create a level and clean surface. The house was virtually empty with the exception of a set of second-hand table and chairs, but it was still a considerable improvement compared to the dilapidated house they were living in before. "Please have a seat, I'll get some water for you." Rebecca went to another room, presumably the kitchen. Mag sat down in a chair, while Jessica sat across from him with her chin in her hands, seemingly deep in thought. Mag smiled, and asked, "What are you thinking about, little Jessica?" "I'm wondering if Amy is going to come over later, as you told me just then that I'd be able to see her tonight." Jessica's eyes were glowing with anticipation. "Amy won't be coming tonight, but I'm here to invite you to a moon festival celebration tonight. You'll be able to see Amy there. Would you like to come?" Mag asked with a smile. "A festival celebration? Can I really come?" Jessica's eyes lit up with disbelief as she looked at Mag. "Of course. You and your mother can both come." Mag nodded in response. "I couldn't trouble you again." Rebecca emerged from the other room with a bowl of water in her hands and a rather embarrassed expression on her face. "Not at all. I'll be inviting a lot of people tonight, so the more, the merrier. I would love for you to come with Jessica." Mag took a sip from the bowl of the water, and found that the water's quality had improved significantly since last time. Rebecca looked at Mag's genuine expression, then at Jessica's expectant gaze, and hesitated momentarily before nodding as she said, "Then we'll be in your care." "Yay! I love celebrations." An elated smile appeared on Jessica's face. Mag turned to look at the fabric and thread on the table. There was a blossoming flower sewn onto the fabric, and it looked a little like embroidery. A curious look appeared on his face as he asked, "Are you doing embroidery?" "Embroidery?" Rebecca turned to Mag with a quizzical expression. She saw that Mag was looking at the piece of fabric she had been working on, and an embarrassed look appeared on her face as she said, "I'm just sewing for a textile shop. The city lord's castle gave us all of the compensation that was withheld before, and they said that Jessica would have a chance to go to school, so I wanted to do some jobs to earn money for Jessica's tuition. Going to school is a good idea." Mag nodded as picked up the piece of fabric from the table. He examined it carefully, only to find that the embroidery was very intricate and well done. Boss Mag, here's a dragon coin. We've received our compensation and the city lord's castle has built new houses for us, so I can return the money to you now. Thank you so much. Rebecca pulled a dragon coin out of her pocket and offered it to Mag with a grateful expression. I'm sure things will only get better from here. Mag accepted the dragon coin and finished all of the remaining water in the bowl. He then got with a smile, and said, I look forward to seeing you two tonight. Amy really misses little Jessica. All right, I'll be sure to come with Jessica. Rebecca nodded as she bade farewell to Mag's system. Give me a football, Mag requested internally, and a football soon appeared in the basket at the front of his bicycle. He pushed his bicycle toward the group of children, who all wore dejected expressions as they tried to force their crushed vine pancake back into a ball shape. Sorry for squashing your ball, kids. Here's a new one for you. Mag grabbed the football and offered it to the kids, who were all looking at him with resentful expressions. The children's eyes immediately lit up at the sight of the football. The perfectly round football with black and white pentagons and hexagons on its surface was clearly far more superior to their crude vine ball. Make sure not to kick this ball into sharp places or into windows. Mag tossed the football toward the children as he offered some words of caution. The children burst into spontaneous cheers as they rushed toward the football. Mag shook his head with a smile before departing. Following the conclusion of the lunch service, Mag began to prepare for the upcoming Moon Festival celebration. News of this celebration had already spread far and wide, and many people were preparing to attend. Of course, only Mamie Restaurant's regular customers were paying a lot of attention to this news. Those who were unfamiliar with the restaurant merely thought that it was just a marketing tactic. After all, similar marketing events were very common in the Aden Square, and larger restaurants gave out even more attractive dishes for free. Meanwhile, this restaurant was only giving out this so-called mooncake which no one had ever heard of, so there were many people who were feeling rather skeptical. The makeshift stage is ready. Mia, Aisha, you two carry the mooncakes onto the stage, I'll go make some more. We could be getting a lot of customers tonight. At the entrance of the restaurant, Mag wore an apron that was covered in flour as looked at Mabai and the others, who were helping him set up a makeshift stage. Boss Mag, do you need our help? Zixi and Lulu approached him with smiles on their faces. If possible, I'd like you two to help us carry some of the finished mooncakes, Mag replied with a smile. Mag spent the entire day making mooncakes, and he cancelled the dinner service so he could make as many mooncakes as possible. There were simple decorations put up all around the restaurant, as well as some colorful lights that were wrapped around the trees outside. There were small signs on the lawn asking people not step on the grass, and an area had been cleared out behind the lawn. That was going to be the venue for the upcoming celebration, and the stage had also been set up there. Mag's thought process was very simple. All he wanted was to celebrate the Moon Festival in an alternate world and spend it with both familiar and unfamiliar people. There was no need to promote the restaurant prior to its expansion. After all, just the current customer base was more than enough for the restaurant. This owner sure is an amazing guy. His restaurant has only been open for just over a month, and he's already made it onto the Aden Square Food Competition Rankings Board, then taken such a large restaurant, and now, he's holding this Moon Festival celebration. Indeed. That Ricky's Rotisserie is situated near the entrance of the Aden Square, and it's got quite a large storefront too. If he moves his restaurant over there, he would be able to multiply his daily income. Come to think of it, we should thank the owner of Mamie Restaurant. In the past, very few customers came to our side of the Aden Square. Now, our revenue has almost doubled, and most of those new customers are coming out for an additional meal after dining at Mamie Restaurant. Mamie Restaurant targets a different demographic compared to us. Even their cheapest dish costs 200 copper coins per serving, so they're clearly aiming for a more high-end niche. However, even those who aren't rich can't resist the restaurant's dishes, but they can only afford a small dessert or something of that nature, so they'll inevitably have to dine at another restaurant afterward to fill their stomachs. I can already feel the position of Dukas restaurant coming under threat. If those two restaurants ever compete with each other one day, it will be a very interesting spectacle to behold. In the distance, a few restaurant owners had gathered together again, and were discussing spiritedly among themselves. However, on this occasion, the atmosphere was a lot more peaceful and cheerful. A horse-drawn carriage traveled past them en route to Mamie restaurant. Gloria took a glance out at the restaurant with a slightly nervous look on her face. "Will Mr. Mag agree?" she whispered to herself. However, her expression gradually became more determined, and she clenched her fists as she said, "This is the only opportunity for me to turn the tables. I have to secure Mr. Mag's permission no matter what." The horse-drawn carriage stopped in front of the restaurant, and Gloria disembarked. Mag just so happened to be turning around to go into the restaurant when Gloria suddenly called out, "Mr. Mag, please wait." "Ms. Gloria, do you need something from me?" Mag turned around to look at Gloria with a hint of surprise on his face. She hadn't visited his restaurant for quite a few days. "Yes, I would like to discuss something with you. Are you free at the moment?" Gloria nodded in response. Her hands were nervously balled up into tight fists, but she was still looking intently into Mag's eyes. "I don't know what you would like to discuss with me, but if it won't take too long, then please come in. The restaurant is holding a moon festival celebration soon, so I don't have much time," Mag replied with a smile. "This won't take long at all." An elated expression appeared on Gloria's face, and she hurriedly nodded before entering the restaurant. "Please take a seat. What would you like to discuss with me today, Ms. Gloria?" Mag poured a cup of water for Gloria and gently placed it on the table in front of her. Gloria looked at Mag's encouraging expression, and her nerves were soothed significantly. She sat down in a chair, and hesitated momentarily before saying, "Mr. Mag, I'm here to secure your permission to use the designs of Amy's dresses." "The designs of Amy's dresses?" Mag was rather perplexed as he looked into Gloria's genuine eyes. "Let me introduce myself, my name is Gloria Moreton, and I am the granddaughter of the leader of the Moreton family. I am also one of two candidates to inherit the position of family leader, the other one is my uncle, Cyril Moreton." Gloria gave a solemn introduction. "Oh!" Mag raised an eyebrow with a hint of surprise in his eyes upon hearing that. The Moreton family had controlled the Chamber of Commerce for several decades, and they were one of the first families that he wanted to revolutionize as part of his plan. Due to the existence of Geoffrey Moreton, the Moreton family and the Chamber of Commerce had become the biggest advocates for discrimination of half-breeds in Chaos City. However, what came as a shock to Mag was that the beautiful woman who had only discarded her veil after being cured by his tofu pudding was one of the candidates to become the Moreton family's leader. This information was something that was not included in the files that he had secured from the detective agency, so his first thought was that she had to be lying. "My father is Lance Moreton, he was once a candidate for the heir of the Moreton family. However, he relinquished that right after becoming a teacher at Chaos School. After taking off my veil, I made a bet with my grandfather, and became a candidate to the heirloom in my father's place. You told me to pursue my dreams, didn't you?" Gloria asked. "I see, then I must congratulate you, Ms. Gloria, but what does this have to do with Amy's dress designs?" Mag's brows unfurrowed upon hearing that. Everything made sense now. From the information that he had obtained, he knew that Geoffrey Moreton's eldest son really did have an 18-year-old daughter. However, there was very little information about her that was available, even her name was a mystery. Who would have thought that she would be none other than the timid beauty under the veil? "Even though I became a candidate to the heirloom, my grandfather clearly doesn't really want to hand the Moreton family over to me. He simply wants to use me to pressure Cyril so he'll be forced to grow and mature. As such, My grandfather gave me the ownership of a textile shop that had been incurring losses for several consecutive years, and he gave me only a month to make it a profitable business. If I'm unable to do so, the textiles shop will be closed down, and my probation will be over. Gloria looked into Mag's eyes with an earnest expression, and said, hence, I thought of a way to make money using the stock in the shop, some of which is already several years old. I decided to make it into clothes of different sizes. As for the styles and designs, I thought of the clothes that you had designed for Amy and the employees of your restaurant. The clothes are all very beautiful and unique. If I can incorporate those designs into the production of my clothing, I'm sure the end product will be very popular. So you're making use of superfluous stock as a money-making tool. That's a very creative idea. Mag nodded with approval as he looked at Gloria. In a society where it was a far more widespread practice to have clothes custom-made by a seamstress, Gloria's proposed business model was very much ahead of its time. Her potential as a successful businesswoman was highlighted by this innovative idea. However, he still shook his head and refused, but I don't want Amy, Mia, and Aisha to wear the same clothes as strangers on the streets. But, an urgent look appeared on Gloria's face. However, if you're interested, I can design a batch of clothing for you, at a cost, of course. Mag cut off Gloria with a smile as he said internally, come on out, system, we've got business. The system is a super professional cuisine system, not to be used for things like designing clothes. The system's resolute voice sounded. The new underwear I bought yesterday is quite comfortable. You're very talented in this area, system, Mag said internally with a smile. Of course. The system has incorporated designs from all of the best underwear in the world and created the ideal underwear which hugs the skin, but is breathable and constantly maintains a perfect temperature. Every time you put on underwear designed by the system immediately launched into a smug tirade. Tisk, tisk, looks like our super professional delicious cuisine system is also super professional at producing underwear. In that case, it shouldn't be an issue to sell a few clothes designs, right? Mag interjected. Well, that's not entirely non-negotiable. However, you have to uphold the most basic integrity as a businessman, and ensure complete fairness and transparency. You can't buy my designs from me then sell them for a higher price like you did with the tea leaves last time. The system's serious voice sounded. Why does it matter what I do with the designs that you sell me? Mag pursed his lips. However, a smile then appeared on his face as he said, of course, you do have a point. Let's set the price at 20 gold coins per design sketch and split it 50/50, so you get 10 and I get 10. Give me 1,000 of those sketches as a bulk package. Try to incorporate the best and most fashionable designs currently going around. At the same time, you have to incorporate the fashion elements of the clothing in this world to create the most exceptional designs. Ding! Deal! 10,000 gold coins have been successfully deducted. Ding! Concept sketches are being prepared. This process is estimated to take up to 5 minutes. Please give a final confirmation and verify whether you would like to add other designs into the package. The system's joyful voice sounded. How about this? I'll get 800 women's clothing designs, 150 girls' clothing designs, and 50 boys' clothing designs. Mag contemplated momentarily before requesting, system, you just deducted 10,000 gold coins from me in one go, give me 100 female shoe designs for free. Something like this must be extremely simple for a high-end system like you, right? We have to give them some benefits in this transaction. Ding! The order has been confirmed. 150 female shoe designs are being prepared free of charge. The system's voice sounded again. Good. A smile appeared on Mag's face as he turned back to Gloria, awaiting her response. Gloria's mouth was slightly agape as she looked at Mag. She had thought that Mag was going to reject her, but he was giving her a huge surprise. To think that he would be willing to specially design a batch of clothing for her. But what was that about a cost? It would be simple if he were referring to a monetary cost, as she and Mars had already worked out in advance what they were willing to pay for the designs. But if he wasn't referring to money, then could he be asking her to do something for him? After all, she had never seen his wife before. With that in mind, a blush appeared on Gloria's face as she struggled to rid herself of that train of thought. She turned to Mag, and stuttered, "MMR Mag, thank you for your trust. If you can make designs for us, we will be willing to pay 100 gold coins per design." After a brief pause, Gloria continued in a slightly embarrassed voice. "However, our textiles shop doesn't have much money at the moment, so I can only purchase 5 designs at most for now. I want to increase the price. What you proposed wasn't the market price at all. This is fraud," the system roared in Mag's mind. "System, our deal has already been confirmed. If you go back on your word now, it'll severely impact my trust in you. Integrity is vital for a businessman, and besides, this is only the price that she's offering. I haven't accepted it yet," Mag replied internally. 100 gold coins per design was certainly a show of Gloria's sincerity. She was making one final roll of the dice, bringing out the last reserves of money from the failing textiles shop to take a gamble. This was also quite a show of decisiveness and determination from the young beauty. Her sensitivity to business opportunities and decisiveness at crucial junctures were both qualities that an outstanding businessman should possess. Mag's impression of Gloria had been completely renewed. At the same time, a plan began to hatch in his mind. He looked into Gloria's earnest yet nervous eyes, and shook his head as he said, 100 gold coins per design is indeed enough to demonstrate your sincerity. However, I want us to collaborate through a different method. What do you propose?" Gloria asked with a puzzled look. "I can give you the designs free of charge for now, but I want 20% of the profit for every piece of clothing you sell made based on my designs," Mag offered with a smile. 20% of the profit, Gloria's brows furrowed as she fell into deep thought. Prior to coming here, she had had an extensive talk with Mars, and decided on an upper limit of 150 gold coins on the price that they were willing to pay per design. However, she had never heard of the collaboration method being offered by Mag. "But Mr. Mag, if this endeavor proves to be unsuccessful, we may not sell that many items of clothing, and the blue suede textiles shop could close down soon. In that case, you won't be receiving much reimbursement for your efforts." Gloria was rather concerned. She was quite confident in her idea, but it had never been done before, and she didn't want Mag to share the risk with her. "I trust in your ability, Ms. Gloria. I also have faith that this business model will be the future of the fashion industry." Mag shook his head with a calm expression as he said, "Furthermore, an investment with no risk involved is not a worthy investment to make." Gloria looked into Mag's eyes and could sense his trust and encouragement. Renewed courage was injected into her conflicted heart as she nodded solemnly, and said, "All right, I accept this proposal. 20% of the profit made with every item of clothing sold by our textiles shop will belong to you. Aside from that, I also have another condition as well as a suggestion," Mag said. "Please state them," Gloria replied with a nod. "If you become the leader of the Moreton family in the future and take over the Chamber of Commerce, I hope you can abolish all of the policies that encourage the discrimination of half-breed beings." "That's my condition," Mag said with a serious expression. Gloria looked at Mag and her eyes gradually lit up. She knew why Mag was stating this condition. The weight of his paternal love was very touching to her, and so she nodded without any hesitation as she replied, "I promise that if I become the president of the Chamber of Commerce someday, I will abolish all of the policies encouraging discrimination against half-breed beings." A smile reappeared on Mag's face as he continued, "My suggestion is that prior to releasing the lines of clothing, you should make the Blue Suede Textiles shop an independent entity from the Moreton family, and make it your own property instead. If you want to become the sole heir to the Moreton family, then this is the only business that you can rely on." Even if you fail to become the heir of the Moreton family, you'll still have a revolutionary clothing shop that will make you a renowned businesswoman in Chaos City." Gloria's eyes lit up even further as she bowed toward Mag, and said, "Thank you. I'll start processing the stock we have straight away. I'll wait for your designs." "No need to wait. I just so happen to have 3 designs for autumn clothes. Autumn hasn't passed yet, so take this opportunity to release your first line of clothes." Mag made his way behind the counter and picked out 3 designs for dresses from the massive pile before handing them over to the stunned Gloria. "Don't be so surprised, designing clothes is a hobby of mine. The annotations on the designs should be comprehensible to all professional seamstresses. I hope that my designs can become a reality." Mag shrugged with a smile on his face. "I'll find the best seamstresses and ask them to make the best clothes. I definitely won't bring shame to your designs." Gloria nodded with a serious expression. A thought suddenly occurred to Mag as he said, "I actually happen to know a very good seamstress. She's a friend of mine, and if you need her help, I can introduce her to work at your shop. One of the 3 clothing designs requires embroidery, and she's very good in that area." "That would be great. Please recommend her to come to our blue suede textile shop." Gloria's eyes lit up with excitement and elation. "I'll have to ask for her opinion on the matter first." Mag nodded with a smile. He rose to his feet and extended his right hand with a smile as he said, "It's a pleasure doing business with you." Gloria also rose to her feet, but faltered slightly at the sight of Mag's outstretched hand. After a brief hesitation, she shook his hand and responded in an extremely quiet voice. "Likewise." "All right, I'll see you next time, then." Mag nodded with a smile. "See you next time, Mr. Mag." Gloria nodded at Mag before departing. Mooncakes. Reunion. Within the horse-drawn carriage, Gloria stared at the box of mooncakes sitting on her lap with a thoughtful expression. A smile soon appeared on her face as she murmured to herself, "In that case, I'll take them back with me and share them with everyone. Mickey really likes dessert foods. Did you hear? Mamie Restaurant is going to hold a moon festival celebration tonight. It seems that a lot of people are planning on going." "What's a moon festival?" "I heard from Boss Mag that it's a festival during which we engage in activities like flower viewing and moon viewing. There are also free mooncakes for everyone. I don't have much interest in flowers or the moon, but I do love Boss Mag's cooking. Let's go, then." Night fell, and hordes of people began to swarm toward Mamie Restaurant. The celebration was due to commence at 8 p.m. sharp, and many people had already gathered at the plot of empty land outside the restaurant. The stage was only a temporary makeshift one, but it had a steel frame structure and appeared to be very stable and strong. Mabai and Lulu had spent an entire afternoon setting it up. There were wheels under it that ensured portability, and it could be split down the middle for easy storage when it wasn't being used. Furthermore, many large baskets of mooncakes had already been placed beside the stage. The mooncakes were wrapped in oil paper and stacked into pyramids, so no one could see what they looked like, but the fragrant aroma of the mooncakes was already wafting around the stage. "It smells so good. Are those the mooncakes that Boss Mag had been talking about? It smells like some sort of dessert. Looks like we were right to come here tonight. Boss Mag's food never disappoints. There are so many people today, though, we'd probably be lucky to get 1 mooncake per person." All of the customers looked at the large baskets with eyes glowing with anticipation. Curiosity toward the mooncakes was the main motivational factor that drew everyone to the Moon Festival celebration. There were many mooncakes in the baskets, but there were also just as many if not more people attending the celebration. Among them, there was no lack of people who had arrived with their entire families. There were children playing joyfully with each other around the stage, and the atmosphere was quite cheerful. "Father, can I have a mooncake first?" In the restaurant, Amy looked up at Mag with anticipation in her eyes. The small round mooncakes were like miniature moons, and they held an irresistible allure to her. There were a few baskets filled with mooncakes sitting on the table beside Mag, and there appeared to be even more mooncakes in the baskets than those beside the stage. Of course you can. There are 8 types of mooncakes today. However, mooncakes are best eaten with everyone else, so you can only have one for now. You can have more when the celebration begins, Mag replied with a smile. There were crispy skin 5-kernel, meat floss, black sesame seed, and bacon mooncakes, snow skin sweet bean paste and osmanthus mooncakes, as well as mixed sugar skin egg yolk and crystal sugar mooncakes. The crispy skin mooncakes that had been pulled fresh from the oven were emitting a heavenly aroma. Meanwhile, the translucent snow skin mooncakes seemed to be exuding wisps of coolness, making them appear as if they were pristine icy celestial maidens. The mixed sugar skin mooncakes emanated a faint yellow sheen, and one could almost see the filling within. I can only have one, a conflicted look appeared on Amy's little face. She looked at all of the mooncakes before her, and was struck by the feeling that all of them appeared to be very delicious. She wanted to pounce onto the table and take a bite of everything, but she could only choose one. That was quite vexing to her. Sally and Yabimiya were busy placing the mooncakes onto the table so they could cool down, and amused smiles appeared on their faces as they overheard Amy and Mag's conversation. One adorable mooncake after another was produced by Mag, and each and every one of them looked absolutely perfect. A captivating aroma was wafting throughout the restaurant and even their stomachs were growling involuntarily. You can only eat one now, but you'll be able to taste all of the flavors soon, so don't be too conflicted, Mag reminded with a smile. As expected, all foodies had choice anxiety when it came to delicious cuisine. Alright, then I'll choose this super pretty ice rabbit mooncake. Amy pointed at a snowskin osmanthus mooncake. The golden osmanthus filling was enveloped by the translucent snow skin, making it appear as if it were a miniature moon encapsulated within a block of ice. There was also a jade rabbit imprinted on the surface of the mooncake, clearly the work of a mold. Every single detail of the rabbit was perfect, giving it a very lifelike and vivid appearance. Wash your hands and take one, Mag said with a smile. All of the snowskin mooncakes had been made at noon as in his past experience, it was best to refrigerate them for a few hours prior to consumption. That way, the texture would be better than if they were consumed at room temperature. All right. Amy rushed into the kitchen with her little stool and washed her hands. She then carefully picked up a snowskin osmanthus mooncake. Her fingertips were struck with a cool refreshing sensation, and the mooncake seemed to be a little bouncy. What an adorable little rabbit! I'll have to eat you now, though. Amy looked at the mooncake in her hand with a joyful expression before taking a bite. She bit through the cold mooncake skin, and the aroma of the osmanthus filling immediately wafted forth. The sweet filling coated her eager taste buds, while the soft snow skin presented a cool and refreshing texture. Amy's eyes completely lit up as she chewed quickly with bulging cheeks, just like a rabbit. She nodded, and said, "Oh! This tastes so good! It's cool like ice cream, but it doesn't melt in my mouth, and the filling tastes like flowers, fragrant and sweet. This is super delicious. You're the best, Father. Slow down, chew carefully before you swallow." Mag offered words of caution, but he was unable to hold back his pleased smile. Nothing made him happier than praise from Amy. He turned to Sally and Yabimiya with a smile, and said, "Aisha, Mia, you two can have a mooncake each as well. You'll be performing and handing out mooncakes soon, so you'll definitely get hungry." "Father, can we really perform? Summer is here today. But we don't have little foldable fans." Amy's mouth was still stuffed full of mooncake as she turned to Mag. Sally and Yabimiya were also slightly concerned. What a lively scene! It seems like a new restaurant has opened here. Looks like Alex finally made the right decision to rent out the place, or has he sold it altogether? A young man with a slight limp stopped in the distance, looking ahead at Mamie restaurant with his brows furrowed in confusion. His appearance was very ordinary. If it weren't for the scar near the corner of his eye, his would be a set of completely unremarkable and forgettable features. However, the clothing he wore was far from ordinary. He wore a dark green silk robe with a belt that had a gold and jade buckle, while the shoes on his feet were made from rhinoceros leather. This get-up was unachievable unless one was very wealthy. What attracted more attention was the long saber with a slightly old scabbard hanging from his waist. The black hilt and black scabbard were missing chunks of paint in several places, and a strip of black cloth was wrapped around the hilt. It was just as unremarkable as his appearance was, but it created a stark contrast with the rest of his outfit. After contemplating for a while, he continued onward. It was a pity that he had a slight limp in his left foot. This was unnoticeable when he was standing, and he appeared to be like any other person. However, once he began walking, his left foot would constantly drag behind his right. Even though he walked just as fast as an ordinary person, it still looked a little awkward. However, he didn't care what the bystanders thought of him. He made his way toward Mamie restaurant as if he had also been attracted by the bustling scenes there. Night had already fallen, yet the shops in the Aden Square were still brightly lit. Street lamps had also lit up on the sides of the road. Those were oil lamps fueled by oil that had been extracted from the fat of magic beasts. The light was bright, and the oil could burn for a long time. Magic casters lit them up every night before snuffing them out the next morning. The costs involved were paid for by all of the shops in the Aden Square, and the fees were collected by the Aden Square Management Center. Within the darkness, a black shadow flashed through the shadowy trees in the Aden Square. He stopped on a particular tree branch and looked at the limping young man in the distance. His brows furrowed as he murmured to himself, "Everywhere he goes, Louis always makes sure to bring some toy and food back for his child, so it's not strange for him to come to the Aden Square. However, he doesn't enjoy really lively and bustling places, so why is he heading straight for one right now?" After contemplating momentarily, Bertley shook his head and continued to lurk in the darkness. At the same time, he began to rush toward Mamie restaurant with the trees providing cover for him. His gaze was fixed on Louis the entire time as he could easily lose sight of him with so many people around. Bertley had been spying on Louis for several months, and no matter how he looked at it, this lame merchant didn't appear to be someone who could orchestrate Alex's escape from Roth Empire. Even if he'd once been an outstanding knight who had served on the kingdom's borders, he was just an ordinary merchant with a wife and kids now. However, as one of the cheetahs under the eldest prince's command, he had to complete his mission by spying on his subject for the required period of time. That was the duty of a cheetah. Team leader, we checked half of the shops on the Aden Square, and still came up with nothing. Should we continue our search tonight or switch to a different location? A thin young man was appraising Narsen with an inquisitive gaze. Narsen wore a set of lavish robes while everyone else in their group all wore different sets of attire. There were some who appeared to be busy merchants, some were in casual attire, and the thin young man himself was dressed up as a manual laborer. They appeared to be completely unrelated, yet they were huddled in a tight bunch as if they all knew each other. It would be too suspicious to continue our search in the night. Narsen shook his head in response. He then turned his gaze toward the northwestern corner of the plaza where a massive crowd had gathered, and a smile appeared on his face as he said, "Let's go over there. There seem to be many children playing over there, and the half-elf girl we're looking for could well be among them. Let's split up to search the crowd. Make sure to focus on searching for half-elf girls around 3 or 4 years old." Everyone nodded, and they instantly disappeared among the crowd as they made their way toward Mamie restaurant. There are so many people. Is this a festival celebration, Mother? This is my first time attending one. Jessica held Rebecca's hand as she stared at the massive crowd in front of Mamie restaurant with her mouth slightly agape in shock. This is also my first time attending a festival celebration as well. Rebecca was also quite stunned. She was wearing a vibrant red dress on this occasion. All of the women in the families of the deceased miners had bought a new dress for themselves right after moving into their new houses. All of them had worn drab and bland colors in the past, and they were completely sick of their old attire. As such, All of them had bought vibrant dresses as a farewell of sorts to their old life. Some said that wearing an exuberant dress would cut off their ties with the dark days of the past. Rebecca didn't know if they were right, but she felt as if her life was filled with hope when she put on this red dress. The same thought process was shared by all of the women in the families of the deceased miners. "Jessica, you came as well." "Hello, Jessica's mother." Daphne came rushing over with a joyful expression before introducing her relatives. "This is my grandpa, and these are my parents." "Hello, Daphne, and hello to all of you too." Jessica greeted everyone politely with an elated smile on her face. "There are so many people today, but I seem to be the only one here on my own." Ignazio was rather dejected, and even the bean sprout on his head was wilting slightly. "Don't be sad, Ignazio." Amy emerged from the restaurant. Ignazio was feeling quite touched that Amy would make an effort to console him, but then she continued, "Your father wouldn't come no matter how sad you are, his seeds are more important than you." Ignazio's face immediately fell as he heaved a dejected sigh. "You're right. In his heart, those seeds are more important than me, and in my mother's heart, gambling is more important than me. But you're very important to all of us here, little Ignazio." Mag made his way out of the restaurant and patted his head with a smile as he handed him a chocolate ice cream. "You've all had dinner already, right? All of you can have an ice cream each, then have some mooncakes later." Mag handed an ice cream cone to each of the kids with a smile on his face. "Thank you, Amy's father." All of the children were delighted. They had been unable to forget the delicious flavor of the ice cream since tasting it on the previous occasion. A smile also reappeared on Ignazio's face. He took a lick of his ice cream, and his smile grew even wider as the sweet chocolate flavor melted in his mouth. Mag then greeted Rebecca as well as Guy and his son. This was the first time he had met Daphne's father, Galen, and it had to be said that he looked a lot like Daphne's grandfather. His stature was just as tall and broad, and from the scars on his hands as well as his muscular physique, Mag could tell that he was also a seasoned hunter. In comparison, Galen's wife looked like a typical stay-at-home wife. She was quite petite, with her hair bound in an organized bun, and she wore a gentle smile on her face. "Amy, are you going to perform again tonight? Your outfit is so pretty. And there's a little cushion on the back as well, it's so adorable." Jessica patted the little cushion behind Amy's back with an expectant look on her face. "Yes. Father told me that this is a kimono and I'll look really good in it when I perform. Summer is here. Look, I also have these wooden shoes that clack when I walk, it's like riding on a little horse." Amy nodded with a joyful expression. She was wearing a black and red kimono with maple leaves and all types of other designs embroidered upon it. There was a pair of brown wooden clogs on her feet and a small cushion behind her back, giving her a very adorable appearance. Big sister Aisha and big sister Mia are also wearing kimonos, and we're going to be performing a new dance for everyone today. I also have this pretty fan as well. Amy waved the little fan that was hanging from her wrist with a joyful smile. Amy's father is so awesome. Daphne and Jessica both turned to Mag with admiration in their eyes. "Indeed, what a beautiful dress. Did you make it yourself, Mr. Mag?" Galen's wife was also quite stunned by the sight of Amy's kimono. "It's nothing much." Mag waved his hands with a slightly embarrassed smile. He had no idea how to make clothes, but that wasn't an issue with the system around. The celebration is about to commence. A performance is going to be held soon, you can watch it over at the stage. I have to go and make some preparations. Mag had a look at his watch, only to find that it was already 7:45 p.m. The commencement of the celebration was imminent. "Oh! Our little Amy looks like a little princess today." Krasu's voice sounded from behind them as he made his way toward Amy with a warm smile. "Hat, what do you mean by today? Little Amy has always been a princess. She only needs a little crown, and she would become a queen." Urian's coarse voice also sounded as he made his way toward them. An ice crystal tiara appeared in his hand, and its countless facets reflected the light at all types of different angles, creating an extremely dazzling display. The design of the tiara was also very elegant, just as if it had been carved from a diamond. Wow, what a beautiful crown! Amy's eyes immediately lit up at the sight of the tiara in Urian's hand. All of the other children also wore similar expressions as they stared at the crown in Urian's hand with awe and amazement. "Welcome, Master Krasu, Master Urian." Mag extended a warm greeting to the two of them. These two great magic casters each had a rather peculiar personality, but both of them were very kind to Amy. It was good to see them here at this festival of reunion. "Hello, everyone." Zixie's voice sounded as she emerged from behind Lulu. She looked at all of the children with a warm smile on her face, and said, "Wow, all of our little celestial maidens have ice creams. I really want some as well. Can I have a taste?" "You can have some of mine." Amy was the first to offer up her ice cream cone. "Mine as well." Jessica nodded thereafter. "Big sister Zixie, have some of mine." Daphne also followed suit. Zixie's smile grew even wider upon seeing that. She was very pleased with her popularity among the children. "Big sister Zixie, I can also give you a taste of my ice cream, but, can you exclude me from the group of little celestial maidens you were talking about?" Ignatzu offered his ice cream to Zixie with a conflicted look, drawing a round of raucous laughter from everyone. Right at that moment, Blower's voice sounded from behind them. "What a lively occasion! I can't miss out on such a grand celebration." Mag looked up to find Blower with Anna standing obediently beside him in a deep blue dress. He smiled, and extended a greeting toward them. "Hello there, little Anna." "Big sister Anna." Amy's eyes lit up as she rushed over to Anna. She grabbed onto Anna's little hand, and said, "Let me introduce you to all my friends." "Hello, Uncle Mag." Anna returned Mag's greeting before being dragged away by Amy. "Tisk, Mr. Mag, you sure are popular with the kids." Blower was looking at Mag with a slightly sour expression. "What can I say? It's a God-given trait." A smug smile appeared on Mag's face. "There are so many people today, and all of my adorable little students are here too." Luna arrived at the venue with Vivian's hand in hers. Vivian had put on a beautiful green dress for the occasion, and the two of them looked like a pair of models as they stood next to each other. "Teacher Luna." Her students caught sight of her and rushed over excitedly. "Who's this beautiful big sister?" Amy asked. "This is a friend of mine, you can call her Big Sister Vivian," Luna replied with a smile. Blower was slightly surprised as he took a glance at Vivian, but he didn't let his surprise show on his face. He looked at the joyful smile on Anna's face and heaved a sigh of relief. He had thought that Anna had forgotten how to smile in the aftermath of her grandfather's death, but it appeared that being in the company of other children had managed to bring a smile back onto her lips. Mag greeted everyone before entering the restaurant to load more mooncakes into the baskets. Those mooncakes were then brought out to the table beside the stage. Aside from during the breakfast and lunch services, he had been making mooncakes for virtually the entire day. He had already made 500 of each of the 8 types of mooncakes. After attaining the body of a third-tier knight, he was able to significantly improve the rate of his cooking. Even he hadn't imagined that he would have been able to make so many mooncakes in a day. There was most likely enough for 2 mooncakes per person. "Hey! Isn't that the giant frost dragon?" Yabimiya was carrying 2 baskets of mooncakes out of the restaurant when she caught sight of a gorgeous yet lonely figure in the distance. That figure was none other than Elizabeth, and she also happened to be looking in Yabimiya's way. Yabimiya hurriedly gave her a smile before making her way over to the stage with the 2 baskets of mooncakes. At the same time, she was thinking to herself, is she also all alone? Where are her loved ones? Boss said that this is a festival of reunion, it's very sad that she's all alone. Is she the one? I've searched through all of the half-dragons in the entire Chaos City, but couldn't find anyone at the right age. Still, she was the first half-dragon that I bumped into in this city. Could it really be this simple? No matter how I look at her, she doesn't appear to possess the bloodline of a giant golden dragon. Elizabeth also had many thoughts racing through her mind as she focused her gaze on Yabimiya. Fox had been very busy dealing with internal matters of the dragon race lately, so he wasn't at Chaos City. Meanwhile, the spy that had been deployed to follow her had already been taken care of, so she had been searching for her half-sister in Chaos City this entire time. Due to the fact that Rankster had disappeared for many years, the giant frost dragons were contemplating the choice of a new chief. As Rankster's only daughter, she was naturally listed as one of the candidates, and this was also why Fox had returned to Dragon Island. He had been lusting after her father's position of the chief for a long time. Mag stood at the center of the stage, and announced, "In my hometown, we celebrate a festival known as the Moon Festival. It's said that the full moon in the middle of autumn is the roundest and brightest in the entire year. Everyone on the entire Norland continent would be blessed by the sight of the same bright and round moon. As such, everyone gets together to enjoy mooncakes and do some moon viewing. This is a festival of reunion for everyone." A shiny golden microphone had been positioned in front of him in a microphone stand, and 2 spotlights had been aimed at him, creating a strong stage presence. A full moon with the appearance of a white jade plate hung high in the sky. There were a few clouds drifting overhead, but none of them was obscuring the moon. What an interesting festival! Now that I think about it, the moon really does appear to be at its roundest and largest at this time of the year. Luna glanced up at the full moon before appraising Mag with a curious gaze as she thought to herself, "Where is Mr. Mag's hometown? I've never heard of such a festival being celebrated in the Roth Empire." "Reunion, Elizabeth murmured to herself. She looked at Yabimiya, who was standing beside the stage, and a slightly lonesome look appeared in her eyes. In this world, it was very likely that a half-sister was the only relative that she had left. She knew what kind of person her father was. If he were still alive, he definitely wouldn't stand by and allow the things happening among the frost dragon race to continue. Initially, she was only trying to fulfill her father's dying wish, and she didn't harbor any feelings for her so-called sister. In her eyes, it was her half-sister and her mother who had stolen her father away from her. However, a hint of emotion welled up in her heart upon hearing Mag's words. In this world, her half-sister was perhaps the only person she could rely on and confide in. Even though it was unlikely that this half-dragon girl on the stage was her half-sister, she was still struck by an indescribable sense of intimacy when she looked at her, even to the extent that she wished that Yabimiya was actually the one that she was looking for. Reunion. I wonder if my mother misses me. As for her father. Sally stood beside the stage and looked up at the full moon. An even brighter and larger moon could be seen from the wind forest. A slightly sour expression appeared on her face as she thought to herself, "He only sees me as a bargaining chip that can secure greater benefits for the family." Her gaze then fell on Anna, who was staring blankly up into the sky on her own, and she was struck by a sense of sympathy. She clenched her fists, and thought to herself, she must be missing her grandfather or her parents. All of these tragedies have been caused by those selfish families in the wind forest. Similar things are happening all over the Norland continent. There must be countless elves who are unable to reunite with their loved ones due to this oppressive regime. The people below the stage were all looking up at Mag with different expressions on their faces. Some of them held tightly onto the hands of the people beside them, while others were looking up at the moon with dejected expressions on their faces. Perhaps somewhere far away, the people they were missing were also looking up at the very same full moon in the sky. Is that Alex? Lewis was also in the crowd, and he wore an uncertain look on his face as he stared up at Mag. Back when he had taken Alex to Chaos City 3 years ago, his body had been completely crippled. All of the meridians in his 4 limbs had been severed, and even though they had been reconnected, he was still so feeble that he couldn't even walk normally. The diagnosis was that nothing in this world could help him recover. Furthermore, he had undergone extensive cosmetic surgery, including alterations made to his vocal cords. His face had been entirely covered in bandages at the time, so Lewis had no idea what he was supposed to look like. Even the magic caster who had performed the surgeries didn't know what Alex would look like afterwards. Looking at the man on the stage, his appearance, disposition, and voice were completely different from Alex's. Only his figure and height were quite similar to Alex's during the height of his powers. However, the meridians in Alex's limbs had all been severed, and recovery was deemed impossible. He was destined to be disabled for life, so how could he possibly be standing on a stage, walking in such a languid and graceful manner? Alex very rarely smiled, and was not good at speaking in public. He didn't know how to make mooncakes, and there was no way he would become a restaurant owner, nor did he hail from a hometown that celebrated a moon festival. They had fought together as comrades for many years, and he had never heard Alex mention anything about a moon festival. In Alex's mind, the only special meaning a full moon held was that it was when vampires were at their most powerful and when wicked dragons often came out to wreak havoc, as well as when an opportunity for orcs to launch an attack against the Empire's borders presented itself. As such, there was no way that this man was Alex. Lewis was absolutely convinced of that conclusion. However, a confused look then appeared on his face as he thought to himself, if he's not Alex, then where did Alex go? If he only rented this place to this man, then perhaps I can find Alex through him, but if he sold this place, then it would probably be difficult for me to find him ever again. Narsen made his way through the crowd with a dark expression, paying particular attention to every child and suspicious man. However, his search was proving to be a fruitless one thus far, and all of the Black Falcons in the crowd were also in the same boat. He was sure that setting a half-elf girl as their target was a step in the right direction, but it was a very difficult task to try and find a half-elf girl in Chaos City, which had a population of close to 1 million. Welcome to Mamie Restaurant's Moon Festival celebration. Next, please enjoy the dance Summer is Here performed by our adorable female dance trio. Please give them a round of applause. Mag announced with a smile. The lights immediately dimmed, and he placed the microphone back onto its stand before exiting the stage. Go, Amy! 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 I'm super looking forward to watching Amy and the two big sisters dance, it's going to super amazing to watch. The impromptu children's cheerleader squad beside the stage had been completely set alight. Little Amy is so adorable. I don't know if my heart will be able to handle watching Amy dance. Ms. Mia and Ms. Aisha are also dancing, right? Amy dancing with two supermodels, just thinking about it is making my heart rate spike. All of the customers below the stage were also getting very excited. Right at that moment, the spotlights lit up again, shining down on the center of the stage. Amy was holding a spread-out foldable fan as she stood at the center of the stage in her kimono and wooden clogs. Sally and Yabimiya were also wearing kimonos, and they were standing on either side of Amy in a graceful pose with fans in their hands. That's... Louis' eyes immediately widened at the sight of Amy. A half-elf girl! Narsen and the other Black Falcons exclaimed. A burst of energetic instrumental music heralded the beginning of the song. An angelic female voice then began to sing, and the three girls at the center of the stage launched into a beautiful dance. Their foldable fans fluttered through the air, while their vibrant kimonos flapped around them, giving them the appearance of three gorgeous butterflies. Dayton Futki ni Hikara Kakume, Rerere Karaku Hansen Koka, Hanomara Jiroshi no Niran Sha Korogashi, Akuriao Taisen ICBM, piano, guitar, bass. The sounds of many instruments overlapped as the music of Senbonzakura washed over the entire venue. No one could understand the lyrics, but everyone was still ignited by the captivating song and dance as cheers erupted from the crowd. What was even more curious to them was that the seemingly irregular dances performed by the three dancers somehow pieced together to form a perfectly choreographed masterpiece. Also, where was that stimulating music coming from? Could it be that Boss Mag had hidden a band beneath the stage in advance? Wow! Amy is so cool! I love you! Daphne sat on Guy's shoulders as she looked up at Amy with admiration in her eyes. This is another brand new song. I still don't understand the lyrics, but if the dance was choreographed by Mr. Mag, then is there anything he can't do? Luna looked on with a stunned expression at the three dancers on the stage. Mag was always full of surprises. Just when you thought you had completely seen through him, he would pull another trick out of his seemingly inexhaustible bag, making you wonder what other secrets he was hiding. The more curious you became, the more you wanted to know about him, and the deeper you fell into his trap. Prior to leaving Rodu, her mother had told her not to develop curiosity in any man, as that would cloud her judgment and ability to think objectively. She had taken that advice seriously and followed it to a fault thus far. However, she was unable to contain her curiosity anymore. This man never tried to put on a mysterious facade like other men did in attempts to impress her, but his vast array of skills made her want to know more about him, even if she would fall for him in the process. I'm getting so hyped up. Even I want to get on stage and start dancing now. Vivian yelled excitedly, looking as if she wanted to rush onto the stage immediately. There's no mistaking it, she's definitely the little girl from 3 years ago. She's grown up to become so adorable, and she's a really good dancer at such a young age. Alex sure is a lucky man. After a brief stunned silence, a gratified smile appeared on Louis' face as he looked at Amy dancing on the stage. He then turned his attention to Mag, who was also looking at Amy with a doting smile on his face. He's completely transformed into a different person in 3 years, I wouldn't even be able to recognize him if I bumped into him on the streets. Louis sighed internally as he looked at Mag. He then looked at the baskets of mooncakes beside the stage and raised an eyebrow as he thought to himself, Alex can't even cook roast sweet potatoes without burning them into coal, is his cooking really edible? The 8 black falcons had already gathered together, and all of them were looking up at Amy with excitement in their eyes. Team leader, what do we do now? The thin manual laborer asked. She's a half-elf, and her age matches our records as well, but we can't be certain that she's our target. Let's try and gather more information on her before we act. Remember, no matter what you do, you have to remain in the shadows. We can only act after the conclusion of this celebration, Narsen replied in a low voice. Everyone nodded with serious expressions on their faces. Narsen looked around before his gaze settled on a tall and well-built young man. He approached the young man with a smile, and inquired, Hey buddy, who's the little girl dancing on the stage? She sure is adorable. Are you new here? You don't even know that? She's the daughter of the Mamie restaurant's owner. The young man aimed a glance at Narsen with a slightly disdainful expression before turning back to look at the stage. Narsen suppressed his rage from being treated with such disdain, and confirmed, so her father is the owner of this restaurant. No sh*t. She's his daughter, so of course he's her father. Stop asking me stupid questions. The young man rolled his eyes. Narsen slowly stowed away the dagger in his sleeve and suppressed the urge to send this guy to the afterlife with one stab. He forced a smile onto his face as he continued, Is the restaurant owner a single father? Is he the man that was speaking on the stage earlier? Where's the little girl's mother? Oi, you're not trying to abduct Amy, are you? The young man's expression immediately became more cautious as he turned to Narsen with a suspicious look. Hee. Of course not, I'm just curious, Narsen chuckled with a slightly stiff expression. He began to grasp the dagger hidden in his sleeve tightly again, while the other black falcons also approached stealthily from different directions. Don't be afraid to admit it, everyone here wants to abduct Amy because she's way too adorable. The young man suddenly burst into laughter. He then shook his head with a disdainful expression as he sized up Narsen, and said, You should just forget about it, though. Look at your scrawny frame, you don't even look like you can beat Amy in a fight, let alone her father. And Narsen heaved an internal sigh of relief as he stowed away his dagger again. At the same time, he made a surreptitious hand signal, indicating for all of the other black falcons to stand down. However, Narsen's expression was still rather dark. What did this guy mean when he said he wouldn't even be able to beat Amy in a fight? That little brat looked as if she were no more than 4 years old, while he was a veteran 4th-tier assassin. If it weren't for the fact that he was on a mission, he would have stabbed this cocky bastard already, turning him into Swiss cheese. Hee, yeah, she really is quite adorable. Even though Narsen was struggling to repress the urge to stab the young man, he still forced a bashful smile onto his face. He turned to appraise the man standing beside the stage, trying to find any resemblance he held with Alex. However, everything about him was completely different. He was almost the antithesis of Alex. Furthermore, there was one line of information that was stressed repeatedly in the files they had on Alex: Alex was permanently disabled, and there was no way for him to ever recover. As such, it would be impossible for Alex to stand and walk like a normal person as this man could. Is this guy Alex or not? Narsen was very perplexed. Mag was very critical of the system for releasing Senbonzakura after Gakuraku Jodo. After all, he was trying to promote Chinese music in this alternate world, but the system seemed to be insisting on converting him into a weeaboo. But then again, Mag and the two girls really did look gorgeous while performing the dance. Their graceful kimonos and intricate fans fluttered through the air, while their wooden clogs clacked on the surface of the stage, keeping up a rhythm that was perfectly in sync with the music. This was the most brilliant rendition of the Senbonzakura dance Mag had ever seen. Both the choreography and costumes were the epitome of perfection. Furthermore, from the reactions of the spectators below the stage, he could tell that they had also been enthralled by the captivating dance. Mag was feeling very proud and elated at the sight of the confident smile on Amy's face. The timid little girl with low self-esteem was gradually developing confidence and becoming more powerful. Mag was thoroughly enjoying his current lifestyle, deriving satisfaction from cooking while watching Amy grow up every day, and he wished that these days would last forever. All of a sudden, Mag was struck by the feeling that he was being watched. He had already grown accustomed to being scrutinized by admiring customers, but the attention that he was receiving this time somehow felt a little different. It was as if he were being inspected by a group of predators, and it was not a good feeling. Mag surreptitiously cast his gaze into the crowd, but was unable to find any suspicious figures. There were close to 2,000 people present, and it clearly wasn't an easy task to find a group of suspicious people among them. Perhaps I'm just being paranoid? Mag continued to enjoy the dance being performed on stage, but he still made a mental note to himself to remain on high alert. The sound of the music and screaming spectators rang out across the entire Aiden Square, attracting the attention of many passers-by. It was not common to see such a boisterous celebration taking place in the Aiden Square, and many people were already being drawn to the scene. At the conclusion of the Senbonzakura performance, Amy's trio spread open their fans and put on their final pose. A burst of raucous screams and cheers immediately erupted from below the stage. Yabimiya's chest was rising and falling quickly as she looked down at the excited spectators. She basked in the cheers being directed toward them, and a joyful smile appeared on her face as all of her nerves completely disappeared. Sally also wore a smile on her face. Putting on such an ostentatious performance increased her risk of exposure, but she didn't want to miss out on this exhilarating feeling of dancing with Mia and Amy. The response from the crowd acted as further acknowledgement to spur them on. Amy also wore a wide smile on her little face. She didn't think that so many people would enjoy seeing her dance, and it was a very good feeling. Mag looked on from below the stage with a smile, contributing to the applause from the audience. They deserved all of these cheers and applause. Only he knew how much hard work and effort they had put in for this performance. In some cases, just a single dance move had to be rehearsed hundreds of times before it was completely mastered. The lights gradually dimmed, and the cheers from the spectators slowly died down. When the lights lit up again, Mag had reappeared at the center of the stage. He picked up the microphone with a smile, and said, "That beautiful dance was the perfect beginning to our celebration. I'm so very proud of them. A compulsory element that must be present during the moon festival is the mooncake. I made many mooncakes for everyone today, and you may come forward to the stage to collect them now. Each person, including children, will get 2 mooncakes. I hope everyone can line up in an orderly fashion, and I guarantee that everyone will get their mooncakes. This is it. I've been getting tortured by this aroma for half an hour. Will I finally get to taste it now? 2 per person? Boss Mag is so generous. Another burst of cheers immediately rang out. Many of the people present had come exclusively to taste Mag's mooncakes, and they were finally going to have that wish fulfilled. Lining up was something that regular customers of Mamie restaurant were accustomed to. As such, 16 lines were quickly established in front of the stage. Even though the lines were very long, they weren't chaotic in the slightest, and no one tried to skip ahead of anyone. There are 8 different flavors of mooncakes, but due to the large number of people here, I've decided to hand them out at random. I hope everyone likes my mooncakes. A smile appeared on Mag's face as he looked at the orderly lines. It was quite apparent that the rules of Mamie restaurant had been deeply ingrained into everyone's hearts. No problem. Anything tastes good as long as it's made by you, Boss Mag. A burst of raucous laughter erupted to support this statement. Mag, Yabimia, Sally, Zixie, Lulu, Luna, Vivian, Blower, Anna, Rebecca, and Daphne's mother were responsible for handing out the mooncakes. One mooncake after another was distributed to the customers, and even though the mooncakes weren't very large, none of the customers were disappointed. They knew that Boss Mag's food would more than make up for its lack in quantity with outrageously fantastic quality. Furthermore, after witnessing such a glorious dance, no one could even bring themselves to be in a foul mood anymore. This green bean paste mooncake is so delicious. The filling is sweet and refreshing, while the skin is sumptuous and savory. So this is a mooncake. It's fantastic. My egg yolk filling is the best. The savory egg yolk is incredibly delicious. It's hard to imagine how a whole egg yolk is able to appear in a mooncake like this, it's like magic. After biting into the mooncake, the filling and the skin combine to create an irresistible flavor. I've got a bacon mooncake. It has a really meaty flavor and it's very oily, but not greasy. This is the perfect combination of a meat dish and a dessert, no other mooncake flavor can compare. Aren't mooncakes supposed to be a dessert food? How can bacon-flavored mooncake possibly taste good? Look at mine, this is a crystal sugar mooncake. I feel like I've been plunged into a jar of honey after taking just a single bite. This is what a true mooncake should be. I've got a snowskin mooncake. It's really cool and bouncy. The customers all began to devour their mooncakes. After finishing them, they began to argue with each other about who had been given the mooncakes with the best flavor. The situation was similar to the tense relationship between the sweet and savory tofu pudding factions, except there were 8 factions this time, so the conflict was a lot more chaotic. I don't care about what flavor anyone else got, and I'm not interested in arguing with anyone. However, Boss Mag, I have to ask you this, what flavor mooncake am I eating right now? I bit into it and could taste sunflower seeds, peanuts, and sesame seeds, as well as 2 other nuts or seeds that I can't identify. What kind of mooncake is this? Harrison asked loudly. That flavor must be very complex, right? It must be. I can't imagine what it would taste like for such a small mooncake to contain so many fillings. It's so ugly as well, this thing doesn't even deserve to be called a mooncake. Harrison's 5-kernel mooncake had drawn everyone's attention. Many people turned to look at the mooncake in Harrison's hand, and were eager to stamp their mooncake's superiority over his. Meanwhile, all of the people lined up behind Harrison were rather concerned as they looked at Mag, who was responsible for handing out the 5-kernel mooncakes. They knew that anything made by Mag would taste good, but no matter how they thought about it, a mooncake crammed full of 5 nuts and seeds would surely taste very strange. As such, many people were already sneaking over to a different line. This is a very unique existence in the mooncake world, it's known as 5-kernel mooncake. You may be concerned that too many ingredients would ruin the flavor of the filling, but I guarantee you that the flavor combination is a very alluring one. Mag looked at the mooncake in Harrison's hand and recited the promotional script that the system had given to him with a slightly unnatural expression. He then looked at Harrison with a smile, and said, "Mr. Harrison, please give us your review of the 5-kernel mooncake." Harrison took another large bite of the mooncake in his hand before chewing carefully. A blissful expression appeared on his face, and he only swallowed after chewing for a long while. As he opened his eyes, an expression of surprise and elation appeared on his face as he said, "On my first bite, it felt a little strange to have so many flavors entering my mouth at once. However, after carefully savoring the second bite, I've discovered that all of the nuts and seeds have been baked to a very crispy and sumptuous state. All of the nuts and seeds have their own unique taste, and are more delicious than any I've had in the past. Most importantly, the 5 flavors combine perfectly to create a brand new flavor that is indescribably good. This 5-kernel mooncake must be the best by far among the 8 flavors. Who said a filling with too many ingredients can't taste good? Doesn't Boss Mag specialize in breaking preconceived rules and stigmas?" Harrison yelled vehemently. The people in Mag's line who were preparing to switch lines decided to stay after hearing Harrison's review. All of them turned to look at Mag with renewed confidence in their eyes. Indeed, Mag's forte lay in his ability to break the rules yet still create amazing dishes. This seemingly strange food item could actually be the best among all 8 flavors. After all, someone had already acted as their lab rat, and he appeared to have thoroughly enjoyed the mooncake. 5-kernel mooncake is trash. It's a disgrace to all mooncakes. Exactly. It doesn't even look like a mooncake. Mooncakes should actually be split up into only 2 categories, 5-kernel mooncakes and other mooncakes. All of the customers were still engaged in heated arguments, and before everyone knew it, the argument that had 8 factions had been reduced to 2 factions, one of which was denouncing 5-kernel mooncake with all their might, while the other swore by 5-kernel mooncake and defended it with their lives. History really does like to repeat itself. Looks like 5-kernel mooncake has also become the most contentious mooncake even in this alternate world. Mag shook his head with a smile, but made no attempt to stop the quarreling. The conflict between the tofu pudding factions had already instilled good habits into everyone, so they wouldn't end up actually fighting over the different flavors. Quarreling without any malicious intent actually worked to liven up the scene quite nicely, and it felt as if everyone was getting into the spirit of the Moon Festival. "Boss Mag, I'll take all of the Burning Legion's mooncakes in their stead." Sargeras made his way over to Mag with a bashful smile. "Sure. Looks like it was a good day of hunting for you guys today." Mag smiled as he placed 12 mooncakes into Sargeras' hands. Keel and the others were all standing behind him with rucksacks in their hands, all of which appeared to be filled, thereby indicating a successful hunting trip. "It sure was. We caught a lot of good stuff today, and ended up getting back a little late. We were worried that we'd miss out on the dinner service, so we came over before going to the Mercenary Union, but the dinner service was cancelled anyway. Looks like we won't be getting any Rigiamo tonight." Sargeras wore a slightly forlorn look on his face, but his voice held no accusatory undertones at all. Mag nodded at the demons in the Burning Legion in acknowledgement. These demons were risking their lives day after day to achieve their vision of allowing all of their brethren to eat Rigiamos. They were true heroes of their race. "It's really good that we were able to have your mooncakes anyway. Come to think of it, I haven't been home for several centuries, so I'll take this opportunity to do some moon viewing and reminisce about my homeland." Sargeras smiled as he carried the mooncakes away. All of the other members of the Burning Legion also smiled at Mag before departing in the wake of Sargeras. Mag continued to hand out mooncakes to his customers. He looked at the smiles on everyone's faces, and a wide beaming smile crept onto his own face. Right at that moment, a figure limped over to Mag. He extended a hand forward, and requested, "I'll have 2 5-kernel mooncakes." This was a pair of hands that were covered in rough calluses. The edges of his palms and fingers were all heavily calloused from gripping the hilts of knives and swords. Those calluses were customary for any hard-working warrior who worked with blades. Mag faltered upon hearing that voice. He looked at a man with a set of ordinary features whose only distinguishable facial trait was the scar near his left eyelid. It's him. A huge wave of shock surged through Mag's heart. He was an extremely important man in Alex's memories. Prior to the incident 3 years ago, this man had protected and taken him all the way to Chaos City before purchasing this place for him. Only one man on the entire Norland continent knew where Mag Alex had gone, and it was this man, Lewis Norse. Please enjoy. Mag forcibly suppressed his turbulent emotions, and handed Lewis 2 mooncakes with a smile. I will. Lewis also smiled in response as he limped away. A smile appeared on his face as he confirmed internally, it's him. Mag looked at Lewis' departing figure, and a hint of sympathy welled up in his heart. At the same time, he became even more alert and wary. He had detected a few pairs of eyes scrutinizing him during the performance before, and one of those pairs of eyes most likely belonged to Lewis. As for who the other ones were, Mag was not sure. If the people in Roduz suspected that he was still alive, then perhaps they would send someone here to try and find him. If so, he was in a lot of danger. He was a man who had been approached by Lewis and had a young half-elf daughter. That was enough to make a lot of people very suspicious of his identity. Mag had thought that he had the situation under control, but little did he know that everything was already on the brink of falling apart. I'll also get 2 mooncakes. Narsen made his way over to Mag, and stared intently at his hands. His brows furrowed initially before loosening as a hint of disappointment appeared on his face. He accepted the mooncakes from Mag and slowly departed. Crack, Narsen took a bite of his mooncake as he walked away, upon which his footsteps immediately faltered. He stared at the mooncake with incredulity in his eyes, and the more he chewed, the more delicious the flavor in his mouth became. Such a delectable food item was simply irresistible. How can this mooncake possibly be this delicious? After swallowing the mouthful of mooncake, Narsen still wore a stunned look on his face. He couldn't help but take another bite, and the more he ate, the more he wanted to eat. Surely even the chefs from the Roth Empire's royal palace won't be able to make such a delicious food item. That guy's hands don't have any calluses from sword training, nor does he even have a scar. Looks like he bears no resemblance to Alex whatsoever. Narsen slowly walked away as he thought to himself, most importantly, there's no way that Alex would become a chef, nor would it be possible for him to become such an exceptional one. However, it's best to verify this for myself. That little half-elf girl is just at the right age, perhaps I'll be able to get some useful information out of her. Narsen took a glance at Amy, who was happily playing with her little friends, before slinking away into the shadows. After the mooncakes were distributed, everyone had received 2 mooncakes, and they all wore joyful expressions on their faces. Dining on delicious mooncakes and engaging in moon viewing with their family and friends helped them gain a deeper understanding of the reunion element of the Moon Festival celebration. However, the conflict between the newly established mooncake flavor factions was only becoming more and more heated. Among them, the 5 Colonel faction was undoubtedly the public enemy, and they received the most abuse by far. However, the 5 Colonel mooncake had a group of very loyal advocators that defended it with their lives. Mag looked at the remaining mooncakes in the baskets, then at the mooncake gift boxes he had prepared earlier, and he smiled as he took the stage again. Was everyone pleased with today's mooncakes? We sure were. Those mooncakes were delicious. I didn't have anywhere near enough. Boss Mag, is this a new product you're releasing? Would I be able to order it at your restaurant tomorrow? Yeah, I really want some more too. A chorus of voices supporting this notion immediately rang out from below the stage. I'm glad that everyone was happy with the mooncakes. This is not a new product that I'm going to release. I made it exclusively for this year's Moon Festival. If you'd like to have some more, you'd have to wait until next year. Mag shook his head in response, which was met by a chorus of dejected sighs. He smiled, and continued, however, I have an opportunity that I'd like to present to everyone. I have these gift boxes here filled with 8 mooncakes each, one of each flavor. If anyone is willing to come on stage and perform something, you can take home a gift box of mooncakes to share with your family and friends. All of the customers' eyes lit up upon hearing that. A gift box filled with 1 mooncake of each flavor was a very tempting prospect, but performing on stage in front of so many people was quite a daunting and foreign task. It was very nerve-wracking to perform something in front of close to 2,000 people. Boss, these mooncakes are so delicious. How about we give a performance? Mon turned to SAHDR with a hopeful expression. I think that's a good idea. I haven't had anywhere near enough mooncakes. Keel nodded in agreement along with all of the other lava demons. What are we going to perform? I'm good in a battle, but what am I going to do on stage? Dance? If any of you can dance, then be my guest, I'm tapping out on this one. SAHDR was also very tempted by the reward being offered, but he knew his own limitations. The demons all fell silent upon hearing that. Indeed, all of them were very proficient at hunting and battling, but performing a dance on stage was beyond their capabilities. If no one wants to go, then I'll take the lead. Krasu's voice sounded as he walked onto the stage with his staff. Great Magic Caster Krasu. I've never seen a performance from a great magic caster before. As expected, coming here tonight really was worth it, as what's Master Krasu going to perform, though? A dance? Everyone immediately burst into a frenzy. No one expected that Krasu would be the first person to take the stage. This was a performance to look forward to. Master Krasu? Why is he here? Louis was a little perplexed as he looked at Krasu. This legendary great magic caster was a very renowned figure in the Roth Empire. Furthermore, his melee magic fighting style and bravery in battle drew him many fans even among knights. Great magic caster Krasu. Narsen was also stunned to see Krasu. There was no lack of Magus Tower magic casters among the Black Falcons. As such, he knew quite a bit about Krasu. He was a great magic caster who'd once stood at the pinnacle of the magic world in the entire Roth Empire. Who would have thought that he would be attending the celebration tonight? Furthermore, he was giving a performance on stage just for a box of mooncakes? If the people in Rodil were to hear about this, their jaws would drop to the ground. Does this restaurant owner have some sort of powerful background? Narsen turned to appraise Mag with a hesitant and wary expression. My master is super strong, his performance must be really good to watch. Amy was playing with her little friends, but she immediately turned her attention to Kras as he got onto the stage. All of her friends' eyes lit up upon hearing that. They also turned to Krasa with an inquisitive light in their eyes, wondering what he was going to perform. I'm not as good a dancer as little Amy, but I know a thing or two about magic. Krasa smiled as he gently raised his right hand. A reddish-golden fireball rose into the sky like a golden egg before splitting open, upon which a miniature flaming phoenix emerged from within. The phoenix circled around Krasu a couple of times before flapping its wings and rising into the sky. Its stature began to swell drastically as it spread open its lithe and majestic wings. Reddish-golden light began to shimmer along its long tail, and it had expanded to become a phoenix around 5 or 6 meters in length in the blink of an eye. It flew high into the sky before abruptly descending, nose-diving sharply until it was less than a meter away from the people down below before rising into the sky again. A wave of scorching heat surged forth as everyone burst into raucous cheers again, creating an electric atmosphere. Wow! That was awesome! So that's what a great magic caster is capable of. Amazing! Even I want to learn magic now. It's like that phoenix is alive, this is incredible. All of the customers looked up into the sky as the phoenix performed all types of complex and stunning aerobatic tricks. That's awesome, Jessica's mouth was wide open. She then turned to Amy with a curious expression, and asked, Amy, Can you also cast such an awesome spell? I can't summon the big red bird yet, but Master told me that he'll teach me in the future. I'll show it to you when I master it. Amy shook her head in response, but her expression was full of confidence. I believe in you, Amy. Jessica nodded with a serious expression. She also had full confidence in Amy. Humph, nice party trick. Urian harumphed coldly. He waved his black wand gently through the air, upon which a giant frost dragon over 10 meters in length appeared, seemingly out of the air. The dragon spread open its wings and hurtled toward the phoenix, sweeping up gusts of frosty wind that had the onlookers trembling uncontrollably. I was hoping you'd do that. Crasso was not flustered in the slightest as he waved his staff through the air. The phoenix overhead also grew drastically, expanding to over 10 meters in length. It let loose a loud crisp cry as it charged directly toward the giant frost dragon. The silver frost dragon and scorching red phoenix engaged in a showdown at an altitude of several dozens of meters. The entire sky was transformed into a vast expanse of red and silver as a result of their clash. All of the customers below the stage looked on with their mouths agape in awe and amazement. Brandley and the Grey Temple personnel were also looking on from afar with tense expressions on their faces. These two devastatingly powerful troublemakers had finally settled down for a while, and they thought that the Moon Festival celebration would pass by in peace and harmony, but who would have thought they would suddenly clash again? They could only hope that the two of them were only going to have a light spar rather than a full-blown battle. Otherwise, no one would be able to control the situation. Just as the phoenix and the giant dragon were about to clash, the two of them dodged slightly to the side simultaneously, and their wings scraped past one another. Fire and ice splattered through the air, creating a dazzling light. The sparks from that glancing clash heralded the commencement of the true battle. The giant dragon and phoenix seemed to be dancing in the sky as they crashed into each other over and over again. Scintillating lights erupted with every single clash as the two massive creatures performed all types of highly complex maneuvers in the air. It was as if this were a real battle between a giant dragon and a phoenix, and all of the spectators down below were thoroughly enthralled. During the clashes, the exemplary magical control that a great magic caster possessed was demonstrated for all to see. Crasso and Urian truly were the most powerful fire and ice magic caster, respectively. These were merely spells that they had casually unleashed for entertainment, but they were already far beyond what anyone else present was capable of. Looks like this is only a sparring match. There's no need to call for reinforcements. Brandley heaved a sigh of relief after arriving at that conclusion. Mag also heaved a sigh of relief as he stood beside the stage. The relationship between these two rivals had been relatively harmonious of late, and they had worked together to craft a wand for Amy. However, the origins of their bad blood could be traced back to over a century ago, and they were like dormant volcanoes that could erupt at any moment. Thankfully, they appeared to be only showing off their skills as opposed to actually engaging in a serious battle, so there was no need for concern. The phoenix and giant dragon clashed one last time in midair before exploding into scorching red flames and silver ice crystals. It was as if someone had set off many fireworks at once, and the spectacular display lit up the night sky. Humph! Crasso and Urian both harumphed coldly. Neither of them was willing to admit defeat, but they had no intention of continuing, either. That was extraordinary. To think that I just witnessed a battle between two 10th-tier great magic casters, I can boast about this for the rest of my life. A burst of raucous cheers instantly erupted below the stage. The marvelous showdown between the two great magic casters had set the entire scene alight. Master Crasso and Master Urian are so powerful. Amy looked on with a reverent expression, wondering when she would become just as powerful as them. Thank you, Master Crasso and Master Urian, for that spectacular display. Please accept these 2 gift boxes of mooncakes. Mag made his way over to Crasso and Urian with a smile on his face while carrying 2 gift boxes. I only want bacon-flavored mooncakes. Don't give me anything else. Crasso shook his head at the sight of the gift boxes in Mag's hands, which contained 8 different flavors of mooncakes. I only want sweet bean paste mooncakes, don't give me anything else. Urian also followed Krasua's lead as he turned to Krasua with a hint of mockery in his eyes. All right, I'll swap out all of the other ones. Mag nodded and did as he was told. After Krasua and Urian accepted the gift boxes of mooncakes, the entire scene fell silent again. With such an amazing performance setting a precedent, even the ones who were intending to get on stage were too embarrassed to do so. Right at that moment, a coarse booming voice sounded. Boss Mag, can we also perform a dance? Everyone turned around, only to discover that it was SAHDR who had made the request, and they were all rather taken aback. Of course you can. Mag was also a little surprised. He didn't think that SAHDR would be the first one to break the silence. He was also wondering what kind of dance they were going to perform. Just the thought of 6 burly lava demons dancing on stage was sending chills running down his spine. All right, we'll do our best, then. SAHDR rubbed his bald head with a bashful smile as he made his way over to the stage. Keel, Mond, and the others also put down their rucksacks and followed behind SAHDR with their heads bowed as if they were slightly embarrassed. What dance are you going to perform? Mag asked. All of the spectators were also very interested to hear the answer to that question. After all, what kind of dance could 6 lava demons possibly perform? I don't know what we're going to perform, either, SAHDR replied with an apologetic smile. Mag didn't know what to make of that response. All right, please begin your performance. Mag nodded and vacated the stage. The 2 spotlights shone down on them from above. Ha! SAHDR stepped forward and let loose a loud roar. His expression became serious and reverent as he slowly raised his right hand. A ball of reddish golden flames rose up from his hand as if he were carrying a torch. The flames flowed down along his arms, lighting up a series of reddish golden lava veins on his body. In the blink of an eye, he had transformed into a fire golem. Ha! The lava demons behind SAHDR also roared in unison with the same reverent expressions on their faces. They spread open their arms, and the same reddish golden flames also appeared on their bodies, igniting veins of lava that flowed throughout their burly frames. SAHDR clenched his fist tightly, and the flame was snuffed out. He then led the lava demons on a circular march on the stage. Their movements couldn't be referred to as graceful or elegant, but they were surprisingly quite synchronized, and their reverent expressions made it appear as if they were performing an important ritual or ceremony rather than a dance. Mag's eyes lit up as he turned off the 2 spotlights. The reddish golden flames lit up the entire stage, while the lava demons exuded a powerful scorching aura. Their reverent expressions and powerful movements made them appear as if they were performing a ritual around a volcano rim. That's the lava demons' fire ritual dance. I didn't think I would ever get to see it again. A hint of surprise intermingled with melancholy appeared on Krasua's face as he looked at the lava demons. It somehow feels like I'm witnessing something quite sacred, a young man remarked. You're right, and they look so cool dancing in the darkness like that. It felt a little scary at first, but I'm really impressed now, a young woman exclaimed excitedly. This is most likely a ritual rather than just a dance, an elderly man whispered, clearly rather displeased with the commotion the young people were making. Such an awesome dance deserves some good background music. Mag thought to himself before a thought occurred to him. His eyes abruptly lit up as he instructed internally, "System, play If I Don't Go to Hell." Tense and fast-paced music began to play. SAHDR faltered initially upon hearing it, but then his eyes gradually lit up. This music was very suitable for their dance, and he fell in love with it straight away. A long time ago, the lava demons had musicians that performed during their rituals, but they had all disappeared over time, and their skills were not passed down. As such, he was very happy to have such an appropriate background music complementing their dance. All of the other demons also wore similar expressions as they settled into a new rhythm to match the music. With the music's rhythm guiding them, their footsteps became even more accurate and synchronized than before. Their stage presence also improved significantly as a result, making for a marvelous spectacle for the spectators. As expected, the Burning Legion's ritual dance coupled with this background music creates a great combination. Mag nodded with a pleased expression. It appeared that his experiment had resulted in a resounding success. With their new background music, the Burning Legion was immediately able to set the atmosphere alight. Many of the spectators were beginning to sway along with the music as they looked on, transfixed by the lava demon's rhythmic ritualistic dance. Ha! 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 The background music drew to a conclusion, and SAHDR raised his right fist as he roared, "Burning Legion!" The lava demons raised their hands in unison, and roared, "For Rugiamo!" Silence settled over the entire crowd before everyone burst into raucous laughter and applause. Everyone had been stunned by the powerful dance they had witnessed, but they were quite amused by that final chant. That was a very spectacular performance. Seeing as you all danced as part of a group, you can get 2 gift boxes of mooncake. You can choose whatever flavor you'd like. Mag also wore a smile on his face. Even though he had heard that same chant being repeated many times, he was still struck by the urge to laugh every time he heard it. Hee hee. SAHDR wore a bashful smile on his face as he rubbed his hands together in an embarrassed manner. Keel, Mond, and the others all also wore similar expressions. "Boss Mag, what's that song that you just played? My blood was boiling when I heard it. It would be great if we could have this music every time we performed our fire ritual dance. Our brethren would also be really happy to hear it." SAHDR and the others were very interested in the name of the song. The addition of the music had completely taken their dance to another level, just as if it had injected soul and purpose into the ritual. That was quite a wonderful feeling. The song is called "If I Don't Go to Hell." If you'd like to play this song during your fire ritual dance, you can come to me and I'll lend you my music player. All you have to do is play the song on loop, Mag replied with a smile. He hadn't thought that these lava demons would get hooked on the song. "All right, thank you in advance, Boss Mag." SAHDR nodded with a smile before departing with the lava demons. Following the Burning Legion's performance, all of the customers were eager to perform again. With a gift box of 8 mooncakes of their choice available as an incentive, many customers began to take the stage. Some performed magic spells, some performed acrobatics, and there were even some who simply put on a lovey-dovey show. One of the latter performances was performed by Zixi and Lulu, and they were greeted by a chorus of boos from all of the single spectators present as they got off the stage with their prize of mooncakes. The gift boxes were soon all given out, and all of the remaining mooncakes had been distributed. Amy's trio had already changed into Chaos at that point, and they performed a Spring is Here dance to conclude the celebration. All of the spectators gave a round of enthusiastic applause following the performance, and they began to depart following Mag's announcement of the festival celebration's conclusion. Everyone left with joyful smiles on their faces. The performances they had witnessed today might not have been performed by professional entertainers, but they somehow possessed far greater entertainment value. Furthermore, there were delicious mooncakes for everyone to sample, making this moon festival celebration a very memorable event. "Mommy, Mommy, will there be a moon festival tomorrow as well?" A little boy was looking up at his mother with anticipation in his eyes. Boss Mag said that the moon festival is an annual festival, so we'll have to wait until next year for the next one. The young woman patted the little boy's head with a smile on her face. "All right then," the little boy was rather disappointed, but his eyes soon lit up again as he said, "Then I'll just have to wait until the moon festival next year. I still want to eat delicious mooncakes, and I want to perform on the stage next year as well." Benevolent smiles appeared on the faces of the surrounding bystanders upon hearing that. The little boy's words echoed the thoughts in everyone's hearts. Even though the moon festival was a foreign one to them, it had been deeply ingrained into their hearts following this spectacular celebration. Furthermore, there were delicious mooncakes to sample as well, and everyone couldn't help but look forward to the same occasion next year. "Thanks for your efforts, everyone. Here are some mooncakes I prepared for all of you. You can take them home and share them with your family and friends. After Sally cleaned up after the celebration, Mag brought out another large basket of mooncakes, and handed them out to Zixi, Lulu, and the others. Father, today is the moon festival, so the moon is at its brightest and roundest. Mother must have seen our celebration and seen us eating delicious mooncakes, right? At the entrance of the restaurant, Amy lay in Mag's arms and looked up at the moon as Mag sat on the stairs. All of their friends had departed and everything had fallen silent, yet the bright moon still hung high in the sky. Of course. She must have seen Amy's adorable dance and seen us eat delicious mooncakes. Mag nodded in response. Amy cupped her hands around her mouth and yelled up at the moon, "Mother! It's me, Amy! I really miss you!" Mag looked down at Amy, and his heart throbbed with sympathy. The mooncakes really are very delicious, though. Father made the mooncakes from the moon. It's a pity that you can't taste them, but you can watch as I eat them. Amy suddenly pulled out a green bean paste mooncakes from her little pocket and took off the wrapping oil paper before taking a large bite. She chewed joyfully before swallowing, and raised the mooncake high above her head. A smile appeared on her face as she said, "Look, it's really super delicious. We'll finish eating the entire moon someday, then come to rescue you." The sorrow in Mag's heart was washed away by Amy's amusing words as he burst into laughter. He patted Amy's little head, and said, "You'll have to work hard then, Amy. The moon may not look very big, but it's actually even larger than Chaos City." "Really?" Amy's eyes widened in disbelief as she looked up at Mag. She then looked at her mooncake and compared it to the moon as she said, "But, Father, look, the moon is the same size as my mooncake. I can eat half of it in one bite." "Well, it's kind of like how when a person stands far away from you, they look very tiny, but they're a lot bigger when they're standing right in front of you. This is an illusion caused by distance. The moon is very, very far away from us, so it looks like it's the same size as your mooncake, but it's actually extremely massive," Mag patiently explained. "Oh," Amy nodded even though her expression indicated that she didn't really understand. She took another bite of her mooncake, and looked up at the moon with an admiring gaze as she sighed. "I also want to live on the moon." "Why?" Mag was perplexed. "In that case, if I ever get hungry, I can just lay on the ground and take a bite of the moon. It must be really delicious." Amy looked up at the moon with a bright look in her eyes. The imagery of Amy biting off a chunk of a moon appeared in Mag's mind, and he couldn't help but chuckle. However, he didn't continue his science lesson. A child's heart was something that had to be preserved, not crushed by scientific facts. "Father, tell me a story. I want to listen to a story with Mother today." Amy turned to look up at Mag. "Sure. Today is the moon festival, so I'll tell you the story of Chang'e flying to the moon," Mag replied with a smile. "Yay!" Amy was elated as she settled into a more comfortable position, nestling in Mag's arms before looking up at him with anticipation in her eyes. A smile appeared on Mag's face as he began to tell the story. Once upon a time, there were 10 suns in the sky. The story of Chang'e flying to the moon had been told to Mag by his grandmother countless times as a child. She would tell him the story almost every moon festival, and even as a young man over 20 years old, Mag would still pay attention and listen to her tell the story. That adorable old woman had already forgotten the names of many people due to her dementia, but she still remembered how to make the osmanthus cakes that her grandson loved the most, and she made sure to cook some for him every moon festival. During the first moon festival after his grandmother had passed away, Mag didn't hear the story, and was unable to sleep for an entire night. He felt as if something irreplaceable was missing in his heart. However, as he told the story to Amy, he felt as if he had returned to that small courtyard in which he had spent his childhood. He felt as if the benevolent old woman was back, telling him that age-old story. This was the feeling of inheritance. It created a connection between 3 generations of people that transcended beyond space and time. In that instant, the hole in Mag's heart was filled. Mag continued to tell the story in a gentle voice. Chang'e took the immortality pill and rose into the sky, all the way until she flew up to the moon, and then, she ate the moon. Amy asked. Why would you think that? Mag asked with a smile. Because the moon is sometimes missing a chunk, and that chunk slowly becomes larger and larger until almost the entire thing has been eaten. Then, it takes a while to recover back to its full size. After that, Chang'e must have returned to the moon and begun eating it again. It's a good thing that the moon can recover. Otherwise, we wouldn't even have a moon anymore, Amy analyzed with a serious expression. Mag had no response to this. It was not a simple task to explain the lunar cycle in such a unique way. As expected of a little foodie like her. She can even finish such a big moon, so it must be super delicious. When we find Mother, I also want to eat the moon. Eat? Moon, Amy murmured as she fell asleep in Mag's arms. Moon. Moon. I'm gonna eat you. Mag couldn't help but smile at the sight of Amy smacking her lips in her sleep. He looked up into the sky, only to find that half of the moon had already been obscured by dark clouds. It appeared that it was going to rain that night. He rose to his feet with Amy in his arms, and was just about to enter the restaurant when he detected someone behind him, and turned around again. A figure emerged from the square and limped his way toward Mag. Despite limping, he was walking rather briskly, and soon arrived at the restaurant entrance. He smiled at Mag, and said, "The mooncakes were really delicious. Would I be able to purchase a box from you? I'd love to be able to take a box back for my kids." "Of course, that's not a problem, but I'll need some time to make the mooncakes, so come in and have a seat." Mag cast a surreptitious glance toward the dense vegetation nearby before quickly withdrawing his gaze. He nodded at Louis and opened his door, making sure to scan the few passers-by on the streets with his eyes before entering. Louis had also realized that something was wrong, but he still calmly followed Mag into the restaurant. "I'll carry Amy upstairs and tuck her in first. Feel free to have a seat anywhere. It looks like the annoying rats came, after all," Mag remarked as he carried Amy up the stairs. The sound of a muffled thunderclap erupted as rain began to fall from the sky. The passers-by on the streets began to walk more quickly, and most of them ducked into nearby shops to temporarily avoid the rain, thereby bringing a valuable influx of customers to the shops that were still open this late in the night. Outside Mamie Restaurant, atop a large tree in the square, Bertley was entirely clad in black as he stood on a branch, completely stationary. He allowed the rainwater to wash over his body as he continued to stare intently at Mamie Restaurant. The location he was situated was a blind spot, so he had no idea what was going on within the restaurant. After a brief hesitation, he slowly slid down the tree and crouched low as he traveled through the bushes. Thankfully, the pitter-patter of the raindrops obscured the faint sounds of his movement. As he approached Mamie Restaurant, his heart began to clench up with nerves. This was the first time that such a feeling had welled up in his heart since he received the mission to spy on Louis. Why is Louis visiting this restaurant after everyone has left? Is he really just here to buy a box of mooncakes for his children, or is there some sort of unspeakable secret the two of them share? Could they have both somehow been related to the incident 3 years ago? With that in mind, Bertley's breathing began to accelerate. He had been tailing Louis for over 9 months, and had gotten a very good grasp of his habits and daily routine in the process. As such, he knew that Louis' actions were a little abnormal today, and he couldn't help but become suspicious. Bertley didn't know much about the incident that had taken place 3 years ago, but he knew who Alex was and he knew what kind of reward he would receive if he were to find and kill Alex. He would be given riches and power that would otherwise be completely out of his reach. That was something that the leader of the cheetahs had told him in person prior to his deployment. Of course, if he were to go back and report this information, he would also be richly rewarded, but compared to the reward for killing Alex, the former completely paled in insignificance. There were countless people in this world who wanted to make a name for themselves by killing Alex. He was the #1 knight in the Roth Empire, and had once stood at the pinnacle of the Norland continent. Even though he had been reduced to a cripple, killing him would still be a monumental achievement that would see the killer's name recorded in the history books. Bertley was also one of those people. With his aptitude, it would be very difficult for him to progress to the 5th tier in his lifetime. Even among the cheetahs, he was only below average in terms of power level, and was destined to be a nobody for the rest of his life, taking on monotonous surveillance missions like this one day after day. He had emerged from the slums in the western region of the Roth Empire, and had seen many horrendous things. He knew how grueling it was to live on rubbish scraps and rainwater, so he climbed up the ranks in any way possible. He joined the army, and had done things like backstabbing his comrades so he could take their accolades for himself. His dream was to be able to ascend to the upper class in the Roth Empire someday. However, he gradually discovered that if he wanted to achieve that goal, power or status were imperative. With his aptitude and background of a slum dweller, there was no way that he could ever reach his dream. Meanwhile, Alex had joined the army almost at the exact same time as him, but had been rewarded by the king with the Empire emblem as well as a massive manor in the center of the city's eastern region after just 3 years. God is always so unfair. These people were descendants of major families anyway, yet they still possess extraordinary talent. They're sought after by countless beauties and revered by the masses. People like him really deserve to die. Bertley laid a hand on the dagger hanging from his waist. A bolt of lightning flashed past, lighting up his twisted sinister features. The black falcons were hiding from the rain under the canopy in front of Mobai's forge, making them appear as if they were just normal passers-by trying to avoid the rain. The thin man approached Narsen, and whispered, "Team leader, we've already gathered some information. The restaurant owner's name is Mag, while that little half-elf girl is his daughter, Amy. No one knows his past history. All they know is that he opened this restaurant here over a month ago and business soon became extremely good for them. All of the customers refer to him as a culinary genius." Mag. Narsen's brows furrowed deeply. That name somehow struck him with a sense of familiarity. All of a sudden, a thought occurred to him, and his heart rate began to accelerate. Alex's name was vastly renowned across the entire Norland continent, but only very few people knew that Alex was only his surname. He hailed from a major family with a glorious history, one that had defended the Empire's borders for several centuries. About a dozen years ago, Alex made himself known to the world for completing a series of seemingly impossible military feats on the Roth Empire's southwestern border. He then became known for slaying demons and wicked dragons. As the name Alex grew more popular and widely renowned, everyone assumed that to be his first name. However, his actual name was Mag Alex. Narsen knew this as he had carefully read through all of the files on Alex prior to leaving Rodu. In fact, he had memorized most of the information in those files. This was a habit of his, and the basic requirement for a black falcon. A half-elf little girl who was of just the right age, a father and daughter duo with a mysterious past, and a man who shared the same first name as Alex. It appeared that lightning had struck thrice, making it very difficult to believe that this was all just a coincidence. There were still many contradictions surrounding Mag that were difficult to explain, but this information was enough for Narsen to gamble on it. If this restaurant owner really was Alex, then capturing him would elevate Narsen to unforeseen heights. If he wasn't Alex, then he would merely have falsely killed a restaurant owner. They had many ways to escape from Chaos City, and definitely wouldn't leave behind any evidence pointing to the Black Falcons. Kill that restaurant owner, then capture that little half-elf girl alive. After that, split up and leave Chaos City immediately, Narsen instructed. Team leader, is he really Alex? The thin man looked at Narsen with a perplexed look as he asked, how could Alex become a chef and run a restaurant in Chaos City? The other Black Falcons also wore similar expressions. In particular, after tasting the delicious mooncakes being handed out at the Moon Festival celebration, they were finding it very difficult to draw a connection between this man and Alex. "This is an order that you must follow. Here in Chaos City, I am the Supreme Commander of the Black Falcons." Narson's expression became quite serious as he instructed, "Disperse and surround the restaurant. Once that lame visitor leaves, we'll begin our operation." "Yes." The other Black Falcons nodded in unison. "I'm sorry, looks like I'm causing trouble for you," Lewis said apologetically. "It's all right, you've always been really oblivious to spies on your tail anyway." Mag shook his head with a smile. He placed a large barrel of beer onto the table and smiled as he asked, "Care for a drink?" "Of course, it's always nice to have a drink before we kill." A smile also appeared on Lewis' face as he limped over to Mag. The rain grew heavier and heavier, splattering against the floor-to-ceiling glass and creating beautiful splashes under the lights. The two men sat across each other with a large glass of beer sitting in front of each of them as they looked at one another in silence. Lewis smiled and broke the silence first. "I bet no one on the entire Norland continent would believe that Alex would have become a chef, let alone one capable of making the most delicious mooncakes in this world. Just like how no one would believe that the nightmare of the entire orc race would become a merchant." Mag chuckled in response. "What can I do? I've got a lame leg now, so I'll only be dragging our comrades down on the battlefield. I didn't die, though, so I have to make the most of my life. Otherwise, your efforts to save me from those orcs would have gone to waste." Lewis nodded with a smile. "Indeed, we should all try to make the most of our lives. I find cooking quite interesting at the moment, so I became a chef. Your efforts to save me from Rodu also haven't gone to waste." Mag also nodded in response. "After being a merchant for these past few years, I've discovered that I'm still better at and more interested in killing people." Lewis laid a hand on the hilt of the long saber that was hanging from his waist. Mag could see that deep finger indentations had been worn into the hilt, suggesting that the blade had been used extensively. "I actually feel like cooking is a bit more interesting than killing now." Mag shook his head in disagreement. Lewis was rather taken aback by that response. He looked into Mag's eyes, and discovered that they were a lot softer than they'd been in the past. "Your daughter is very adorable, she's not like you at all." Lewis chuckled as he abruptly changed the subject. "What do you mean she's not like me? You just haven't seen my adorable side." Mag crossed his arms and feigned anger at Lewis' remark, but there was a hint of amusement in his eyes. Lewis, aka 13, hailed from an aristocratic family. His father had also been a homeless wanderer during his youth, and prior to Lewis' birth, he had already fathered 12 elder brothers for Lewis. Thus, Lewis was ranked 13th in age, and was thus given the nickname 13. Even though Lewis' father became a wealthy merchant, Lewis was not interested in business whatsoever in the first 26 years of his life. He was much more interested in honing his blade skills and ran away from the family when he was just 15 years old, escaping to the southwestern border, where he became a soldier. That was also where he had met Mag Alex, who had also just joined the army. These were Mag Alex's memories. Mag had thought that he could detach himself from those memories, analyzing them in an objective manner before taking advantage of the situation. However, with Lewis sitting across him, he was unable to suppress the feeling that he was in the company of an old friend. This was a true friend who had stuck with him through thick and thin, the kind that Mag would be willing to entrust his life to in the blink of an eye, even though they hadn't contacted each other for 3 years. That was the feeling of absolute trust that welled up in Mag's heart as he looked at Lewis. This kind of feeling made him slightly uneasy, but also filled him with yearning. He began to understand the true meaning of memory integration and assimilation. After assimilating Mag Alex's memories, both the information and emotions contained within those memories had been passed on to Mag. For example, he was struck by a powerful urge to protect Amy when he had seen her for the first time. That wasn't due to his paternal instincts or because of how adorable Amy was. Instead, it was a powerful emotion that had resulted from assimilating Mag Alex's paternal love for Amy. In his mind, he was Amy's father, and he wanted to protect and cherish her forever. Mag didn't resist this assimilation process, as it would make it easier for him to blend into this world. Furthermore, the process didn't affect his independent awareness. If he wanted to, he could even suppress and reject these emotional inclinations, so he had full control over everything. However, Mag chose to accept this type of emotional inclination on this occasion. Louis was a man who had risked his life to smuggle Alex and Amy out of Rodu, and then found someone to treat his injuries and completely alter his appearance before taking them to Chaos City. Mag didn't have many true friends in his past life, he wanted to add to that list in this life. There was no stronger bond of friendship than this. Louis looked at Mag and suddenly burst into raucous laughter. "Pipe down, you're going to wake Amy up." Mag furrowed his brows. "Sorry, I suddenly remembered when we first joined the army. You were trying to appear cool and mysterious, so you refused to speak. Our team leader then made you meow 100 times as punishment. Everyone from 3 entire battalions came to watch. Thinking back now, I think you have shown me your adorable side." Louis was crying from laughter. Mag's expression immediately darkened. Even though he hadn't been put through that experience himself, he was still struck by an intense sense of humiliation upon recalling that memory. He had been afraid of Louis bringing up embarrassing stories like this. Thankfully, Amy had already gone to bed. After his laughter died down, Louis downed all of the beer in his glass in one go before slamming the glass onto the table with a dull thump. He burped and gave Mag a thumbs up as he praised, "This is some really good wine. Would you like another glass?" Mag asked with a smile. "No, thanks. Killing isn't as satisfying when drunk." Louis shook his head as he rose to his feet with his hand on the hilt of his blade. He looked at Mag with a smile, and said, "Save the wine for me. If I don't come back, then drink it in my stead. You said you wanted some mooncakes for your kids, right? I'll prepare some for you to take back with you," Mag offered. "Don't worry about it. My kids have their mother and their 12 uncles to look after them, they won't starve." Louis shook his head in a nonchalant manner. He looked at Mag, and said, "You should go upstairs and stay with your daughter. You're the only one she has. I may have a limp leg now, but don't forget I'm still Lone Wolf Louis. I can take care of a few rats with ease." Louis chuckled as he turned to walk out the door. Mag fell silent as his hands slowly balled up into tight fists. He looked on with a heavy heart at the limping figure walking into the rain. The door slowly swung shut, and the sound of the falling rain was abruptly muffled, making it seem as if he had been separated from the outside world. Mag looked at the empty glass across from him and chugged down his own beer in one go. He then rose to his feet with a smile and picked up an umbrella as well as a sword before striding out the door. Howling winds accompanied the pouring rain as a massive storm ensued. Mag opened his black umbrella to keep out the rain while holding his sword in his other hand. His eyes narrowed as he searched for the limping figure outside. After taking a glance out of the corner of his eyes at the 2 figures under the canopy of Mob Eye's forge, Mag strode out of the restaurant. The wind and rain instantly drenched his shoes and the bottom section of his pants, but his expression didn't change in the slightest as he made his way toward Louis at an even pace. He came out, team leader, and he's holding a sword. The thin black falcon's eyes lit up initially, but a fearful look then appeared on his face. Why would an ordinary chef carry a sword with him out on a rainy night? If Narsen really was correct and this chef truly was Alex, then wouldn't he be able to kill all of them? Looks like he really is Alex, and that lame man must have some sort of unspeakable connection to him. He's most likely the one who took Alex to this place 3 years ago. We have to make sure to kill both of them. Narsen was a lot calmer in comparison. Aside from excitement, there was also a hint of wariness in his eyes. All of the information that he had read stated that Alex had sustained injuries that were impossible to recover from, and that there was no way he would ever be able to use a sword again. However, just the name Alex was enough to strike fear and caution in anyone's heart. Furthermore, it appeared that this man was far from a cripple, so all of them were naturally feeling quite wary. Lewis strode over to the bushes, and laid his right hand on the hilt of his blade. Right at that moment, a large umbrella appeared over his head, shielding him from the pouring rain. Lewis faltered as he turned to Mag with a perplexed look. "The rain is really heavy, so I decided to accompany you for a bit," Mag explained with a smile. "All right." Lewis hesitated momentarily as he looked into Mag's eyes before making his way into the square with Mag in accompaniment. The two of them walked at a leisurely pace, and there were no signs suggesting that they were in any peril at all. Bertley slowly lowered the dagger in his hand as he hid in the bushes. His back was completely drenched in a mixture of rainwater and cold sweat. He stared intently at the man holding the umbrella, and he could clearly see the long sword in his hand. The sword was quite long and thin, a little different from what the sword in the legends was supposed to be like. However, the fact that he was walking alongside Lewis on a rainy night with a sword in his hand was enough to tell a compelling story. However, Bertley still wasn't in a hurry to strike, as he had already discovered a few others with the same objective as his. They weren't cheetahs, so they could only be black falcons. The cheetahs were under the eldest prince's command, while the black falcons answered to the second prince. They existed to do dirty work for their respective masters in the shadows. The two of them were natural enemies, and had fought countless times with many of their members perishing every year as a result of their ongoing feud. Now, they were all pursuing the same target. There was only one cheetah present, but there were 8 black falcons on the scene. The cheetah wasn't stupid enough to reveal himself and make the first move. "Go after them." Narsen waved a hand and led the way into the rain. The 7 black falcons followed along soundlessly. "It's best for me to wait in the shadows for now. Hopefully, Lewis and that man can wear themselves out and kill all of the black falcons so I can swoop in and land the killing blow." Bertley lurked in the darkness for a while longer before following the 8 black falcons deeper into the Aiden Square. "You shouldn't have come out. With your past injuries, even if you can walk now, it would be very difficult for you to fight anymore. Your identity has most likely been exposed as well," Lewis whispered urgently with furrowed brows. "I find cooking more interesting nowadays, but I have to admit that I'm still a better killer than I am a chef. As long as I can still hold a sword, I can still kill." A smile appeared on Mag's face as he glanced at their pursuers out of the corner of his eye. He then shook his head, and said, "Besides, some of them were drawn here by you, while the others came here of their own accord. If I don't kill them before they can spread the news, my identity will truly be exposed. Hence, they have to die." Lewis took a glance at the long sword in Mag's hand, and asked, "You changed swords?" An ironic smile appeared on Mag's face as he said, "This one is a bit more suitable for me at the moment. Besides, my old sword is being kept at the royal palace to commemorate me, is it not?" "How many of them are there?" Lewis asked. 8 and 1. "I'll take on the 8, you take care of the one that came after you. We have to act fast. If we let even one of them get away, we'll be in big trouble." Mag was searching for a suitable location to facilitate their battle. Being forced to kill someone was not ideal in Chaos City. If something were to go wrong, he would most likely have to flee the city with Amy again. "Did you encounter a goddess who healed your injuries and taught you to cook?" Lewis turned to Mag with a skeptical look. "I've only partially recovered. My body is currently comparable with the 3rd-tier knights, but I should have no issues killing people." Mag shook his head in response. "All right, I'll get the one that came after me, then come to help you." Lewis nodded in support of Mag's decision. Mag finally stopped in front of a large tree. They had arrived in a groove deep into the Aiden Square. It was quite far away from the restaurant, and no one would come here on such a rainy night. Furthermore, the sound of the pouring rain and thunderclaps could drown out the sounds of the upcoming battle. Mag lowered his umbrella, and when he raised it again, he was the only one left under it. Lewis had disappeared. Within the pitch-black forest, rainwater was still drumming on the umbrella. Narsen stopped and gave an almost undetectable whistle, like the cry of an indeterminate bug. The Black Falcons immediately stopped about a dozen meters away from Mag, awaiting the signal to attack with wary expressions on their faces. This man appeared to be a completely different person compared to the man who had once reigned supreme over the Norland continent, but everyone was still struck by an extreme sense of pressure in his presence. Alex was an insurmountable benchmark for all knights on the Norland continent, and was regarded as a man who had reached the pinnacle of human performance. That was why they had deployed so many 10th-tier magic casters, knights, and demons to assassinate him 3 years ago. "I don't care if you're Alex or not, you have to die tonight." Narsen gripped tightly onto the hilt of his long sword as he gave 2 short sharp whistles. He then drew his long sword and rushed toward Mag soundlessly. At the same time, 5 people emerged from different directions, all also charging at Mag with weapons in their hands. Meanwhile, the remaining 2 Black Falcons pulled out wands and began to chant spells in the darkness. The rain seemed to be getting heavier and heavier. It very rarely rained during autumn in Chaos City, let alone when it came to such a heavy, pouring rain. This made the customers in the restaurants even more concerned as they waited for the rain to stop. They didn't want to sit around without ordering anything, so they could only order a pot of tea or some wine along with side dishes here and there. If they didn't want to brave the rain, then they had to spend some money. This was a very pleasing sight for all of the restaurant owners. Many of these customers were on their way home from Mag's Moon Festival celebration, and were caught in the rain. The restaurants normally had next to no business at this time of day, but thanks to Mamie Restaurant, they were able to profit quite handsomely during what was supposed to be a dry patch. A fat restaurant owner looked out at the rain with a joyful smile as he murmured to himself, "If only Mamie Restaurant could hold these celebrations on a more regular basis." Meanwhile, the notion of holding another celebration was the last thing on Mag's mind. Instead, he was appraising the 6 incoming assailants with a grave expression. He could see 2 glimmers of light nearby, indicating that there were 2 magic casters preparing to cast spells. Thankfully, they were only elementary spells, which indicated that neither of them was an intermediate magic caster. This was the only silver lining for Mag in this situation. If he had to face so many enemies at once and there were intermediate magic casters among them, then he would be in an extremely dire situation. This situation was rather similar to the incident that had taken place on a rainy night 3 years ago. The 10th-tier magic casters remained further back, while the 10th-tier knights, cavalry, and demons charged toward him with all their might. Memories of that grueling battle were still imprinted deeply in Mag's mind. His assailants on this occasion weren't great magic casters, 10th-tier knights, and 10th-tier demons, but he was also no longer the Mag Alex of the past who could slay giant dragons. His enemies were clearly well prepared with 6 warriors and 2 long-range magic casters among their ranks. This was not a configuration that was often seen in the royal army, so they were most likely the second prince's subordinates. From the speed of their movement, Mag could determine that there were at least 2 4th-tier knights among them, while the others were all at least at the 3rd tier. He had just recovered the strength of a 3rd-tier knight, and had perfected all of the sword forms accessible to him in the test field for the god of cookery the night before. He was wielding the long sword that he had purchased from the system, a sword which was supposed to be the most suitable for his current power level. Thus, he was plunged into a life-and-death situation again. If he were to be defeated again, no one would spare him this time. Hence, he had to fight for his life. Thankfully, the friend and comrade whom he trusted the most was fighting alongside him. He suddenly let go of his umbrella and allowed it to clatter to the ground. At the same time, he sprang into action, shooting forth toward Narsen like an arrow. Mag still had the vast combat experience left behind by Alex in his mind, as well as countless different solutions to any perilous situations that he might encounter in battle. Power alone was not enough to make someone the number 1 knight on the Norland continent, brains were more important than brawn. Otherwise, he would have already perished back when he had been surrounded on Dragon Island. However, he forced himself to fight on through his severe injuries and slew the most powerful wicked dragons among the group, thereby dispelling his plight. None of the giant dragons dared to stop him as he left, as they didn't know whether he still had the power to kill them as well. This group of 8 assassins was very powerful. At the very least, it was a formidable force for him to deal with in his current state. Furthermore, 2 of them were third-tier magic casters who had been given an opportunity to accumulate power in order to unleash their most powerful spells. It would not be a simple matter for Mag to defend himself against third-tier spells. As such, he had to employ blitzkrieg tactics and kill their leader first. This was a tactic that was applicable whenever one was attacked by multiple assailants. Narsen looked at the oncoming Mag, and his heart thumped wildly in his chest. The hint of fear in his eyes gradually turned into madness as his sword-wielding hand trembled. However, he was trembling from excitement rather than nerves. Alex was clearly no longer the man he'd once been. Otherwise, he would only have to slash his sword at Narsen from afar to put an end to his life. However, he had been reduced to such a state that he had to initiate an attack against Narsen. He was the supremely proud number 1 knight on the Norland continent, but he was initiating an attack against Narsen, and from the speed that he displayed, it appeared that his power level was only comparable to that of a second-tier knight. Narsen didn't know how he had managed to recover from his injuries, which had been deemed impossible to recover from, but if this was the current extent of Alex's power, then it wouldn't be anywhere near enough. Narsen had been a 4th-tier knight for close to 10 years. He held a crushing advantage over Alex in speed, power, and soul power, so how could he possibly not win? A slightly insane smile appeared on Narsen's face as he drew his long sword and stabbed it through the air directly toward Mag's heart. He could already envision Alex perishing by his sword. After that, news of his death would spread like wildfire throughout the entire Norland continent. As a result, he would become the general of the Black Falcons, and truly become a prominent figure in the Roth Empire. The other 5 Black Falcons were still converging toward Mag, while the 2 magic casters had finished preparing their spells, and were ready to cast them at any moment. At the same time, Mag and Narsen were about to clash. Narsen's sword was pure black, and the entire blade had been smeared with lethal poison. If the sword were to pierce Mag's heart, even a healer wouldn't be able to save him. Meanwhile, Mag's sword was still in his scabbard. All of a sudden, he abruptly accelerated and drew his sword in one smooth motion. Narsen's eyes immediately widened as the golden light shimmered on his black longsword from the injection of his soul power. This was his most powerful sword strike, and he had slain many 4th-tier opponents with it in the past. However, his heart was plunged into a glacial pit as Mag flicked his long sword upward in a seemingly casual motion. The sword strike appeared to be rather light and lacking in power, but it was so fast that Narsen was almost unable to even trace its trajectory with his eyes, let alone react to it. This was definitely not a sword strike that a second-tier knight could unleash. Its speed exceeded what was possible even for a 4th-tier knight. This meant that he had intentionally hidden his true power. Narsen's heart sank, but his expression became even more insane as he injected all of his power and soul power into his sword. Even if Alex had hidden his true power, he most likely hadn't reached the 4th tier yet. Otherwise, he wouldn't have to resort to such tactics. Alex was invincible among beings of the same tier, that was a well-known fact. A flash of silver light appeared on Mag's longsword. The light was very faint, and could easily be missed unless one was focusing on it. Ding! The 2 long swords finally clashed. The golden longsword was cut off down the middle, and its tip fell to the ground. Narsen saw many things. He experienced a vision that took him back to when he was 18 years old, when he had received his military uniform from his father and become an honorable knight. Not long after that, his father was killed while standing up for some people who were being harassed by a noble. However, those nobles were beyond reproach, and he couldn't do anything even as a knight. The hierarchical disparity plunged him into crushing despair, and he had even considered launching a suicide attack against them. However, another nobleman helped him throw those nobles into prison, and the one who had killed his father even died in his jail cell while serving his sentence. After that, Narsen became a Black Falcon. There were many other people just like him among the Black Falcons. They weren't pursuing riches or power, but they harbored absolute loyalty to the second prince, and would lay down their lives for him without batting their eyelids. The second prince had bestowed upon them their second lives, so they were eternally indebted to him. For their second prince, they were even willing to set aside their fears to pursue the all-powerful Alex and attempt to kill him should they encounter him. Alex had once been the brightest star in the royal army. His scintillating light illuminated the entire Roth Empire, and he was vastly renowned even in the scope of the entire Norland continent. He was a 10th tier knight, a dragon slayer, the youngest general in the Empire's history. He possessed countless glorious titles, and was regarded as the only man to have reached the peak of human performance. Even after Alex had been completely disabled following an elaborate assassination attempt, Narsen discovered that he was still no match for this legendary man. He could sense that his opponent only possessed a third-tier power level, but he was simply unable to defend himself from his attack. Narsen's eyes widened as he looked at his own long sword being severed by his opponent's. A cold sensation glanced past his neck, and all feeling left his body. Blood gushed from his neck, and as his head fell to the ground, he saw his headless corpse also collapsing in the rain. So he really is Mag Alex. One final thought flashed through Narsen's mind before his consciousness was completely snuffed out. After decapitating Narsen, Mag didn't even take a single glance back at him before charging toward the next black-robed figure. A pillar of blood erupted into the air as Narsen's head thumped to the ground. He seemed to have been slain in the blink of an eye. All of the Black Falcon's eyes widened in shock and horror upon seeing that, but none of them retreated or uttered a single sound. Instead, they tightened their grip on their weapons and continued to charge toward Mag. They had to complete this mission even if they were to die. Otherwise, they would suffer a fate worse than death if they were to flee. Even though Narsen had just been insta-killed, they could tell from Mag's attack that he hadn't yet recovered the power of the 4th tier yet. He was only able to draw Narsen into a false sense of complacency by hiding his true power before quickly accelerating to put an abrupt end to their battle. They still had 7 people left, there was no reason for them to panic. Furthermore, if they were able to succeed in killing Alex, they would be rewarded with unimaginable riches and power. That was undoubtedly a very tempting prospect for them. Violent wind blades. One of the magic casters aimed his wand toward Mag, and a violent tornado swept through the air. Greenish-yellow blades of wind performed a lethal dance, sweeping up soil, leaves, and stones as they hurtled toward Mag's scorching flame slash. The other magic caster also unleashed his spell at almost the exact same time. A crescent-shaped blade of fire roughly 3 to 4 meters in length whistled through the air toward Mag at an even faster speed than the tornado. The other black-robed figures were still converging toward Mag, creating an inescapable pocket that cut off all avenues of retreat. Many trees were uprooted by the violent winds, while leaves that were drenched by rainwater a moment ago were scorched black by the blade of fire. A scorching heatwave hurtled forth while the black-robed figures closed in on their prey. Mag's expression remained calm as he assessed his current situation. All of a sudden, he stomped with his foot into a nearby tree, thereby allowing himself to instantly change directions. He then used 2 more trees as his launching pads in quick succession before lashing out with his sword toward one of the black-robed figures. A dagger sliced open Mag's sleeve and its poisoned edge glanced past, mere millimeters from slicing open the skin on his arm. The scorching flame slash and violent wind blades clashed behind Mag with a dull thump as the flames were torn apart, but the tornado was also slashed in half. Mag twisted his wrist, using his sword to shred the heart of the black-robed assailant in front of him before rushing toward the 2 magic casters nearby. Stop him! The remaining 4th tier deputy team leader could see what Mag was trying to do, and he immediately tried to rally his troops. Having seen 2 of their comrades die in quick succession, the Black Falcons were under immense pressure. Furthermore, Mag had killed Narsen, who was the most powerful among them, before killing the weakest member of their team. There was no rhyme or reason to his choice of victims, and no one knew who was going to be targeted next. Mag's intention was very clear. He wanted to take out the two magic casters. The two long-range magic casters were absolutely useless in a melee, and relied solely on the protection of their comrades. However, these two were imperative to the function of their team, so they absolutely could not be allowed to die yet. The two magic casters had also discovered Mag's intention, and despite their panic, they still had the presence of mind to unleash their disposable magic shields. At the same time, the tips of their wands lit up as they began to accumulate power for an even more powerful spell. The fact that Mag was targeting them presented both an intense crisis as well as a fantastic opportunity. If they could hold on and tie Mag down for a while, their teammates would be able to tear him to shreds. The magic shields they had were designed for them by magic casters of the Magus Tower, and could withstand 5th-tier attacks. As such, they were confident that they would be able to defend themselves against Mag. The other Black Falcons were also aware of this, and they all circulated their soul power to the maximal extent, awaiting the perfect opportunity to strike. Mag looked at the golden magic shields encapsulating the two magic casters, and a disdainful sneer appeared on his face. It seemed that the people of this world had already forgotten that dragon slaying was not actually Alex's main forte. Instead, it was. A fortune teller had once told Bertley that he would live a very long life, and that it would be very difficult for him to die. Bertley believed firmly in this. After all, those who were able to crawl out of the slums were normally very hard to kill, as they would have died in the slums already without sufficient resourcefulness. Hence, no matter what kind of situation he was in, he was always able to retain clarity of mind, and then make the decision that would secure the most benefits for him. In his eyes, there was only eternal profit, so he was never going to incur losses. People like him often lived very long. However, only when the blade was slowly withdrawn from his chest did Bertley realize that everything the fortune teller had said was just to swindle him out of a gold coin. His dagger had pierced the leg of the man behind him, but the latter didn't even wince. Bertley turned around, only to find a set of facial features that he was extremely familiar with, as he had been looking at the same face for months on end. The blade of the dagger had almost completely sunk into Louis' leg, but there was nothing on his face to suggest that he was in any pain. It was as if that leg didn't even belong to him. A knight must have integrity and moral compass, if not, then they don't deserve to be called a knight. A man like you does not deserve to be called a knight. Louis wore a cold expression on his face as he withdrew his long blade from Bertley's chest, and also extricated Bertley's dagger from his leg. A strangled gurgling sound came out of Bertley's mouth as he fell to his knees. He stared up at Louis, and was still unable to comprehend how this man had managed to sneak up behind him unawares. Even if I'm lame now, I'm still the man who was once referred to as Lone Wolf. It's an honor for trash like you to die by my hands. Louis pursed his lips before departing toward the location where Mag was engaged in battle. Bertley's eyes widened as he drew his final breath before the final spark of vitality left his body. At the same time, Mag flicked his wrist, and the tip of his sword carved out a circle in the air. A faint glow lit up on the tip of his sword as he tapped it onto the magic shield of the fire-type magic caster. The magic shield instantly began to churn, much like a pot of boiling oil would after being splashed with a drop of water. The tip of the sword was able to melt a hole into the magic shield in the blink of an eye, bypassing it with ease as the magic caster looked on with incredulity on his face. The magic shield had been torn apart as if it had been made from papier-mâché, and the magic caster was slain on the spot. E's blood gushed through the air, but Mag was already gone. He easily tore through the second magic shield before making short work of the final magic caster. Mag Alex's forte was killing magic casters. Regardless of whether they were dark or evil magic casters, or magic casters who harbored enmity toward the Empire and the general public, none of them could survive against his sword. Magic casters were extremely confident in high-tier magic shields, thinking that as long as their magic shields were powerful enough, they would be untouchable in battle. However, Mag was a special exception to this preconceived notion. He had once been given an opportunity to enter the Magus Tower, and was going to be one of the brightest young prospects they had ever seen. His magic aptitude had been discovered during his first trip to Rodu, and several elders from the Magus Tower had fought to take him as their disciple, only for him to reject all of them. He only wanted to become a knight, and becoming a magic caster would clearly contradict with that goal. As a knight, particularly one who served on the Empire's borders, he had to face all types of opponents and life-threatening hazards. Among them, magic casters who carried many types of magic shields were especially troublesome to deal with. In a battle against a magic caster of the same tier, if they had a magic shield with power that exceeded their tier, then they were going to be very difficult to deal with. Hence, Mag invented his own set of sword techniques where he injected his magic into his swordsmanship. Following extensive experimentation, he was able to devise a method to easily break through the vast majority of types of magic shields. Not many people knew about this as most of them were dead. After withdrawing his long sword from the second magic caster's chest, Mag was completely surrounded. 4 swords pierced through the air toward him in unison, and they were all coming from different directions and angles, cutting off all avenues for evasion or retreat. Mag swept his long sword behind him, addressing the sword that was aimed at his heart from behind first. In doing so, he pushed the sword off its original path and chopped off one of the wielder's fingers. He then brought his sword upward, slicing another oncoming long saber in half before immediately falling backward, upon which 3 miniature arrows barely glanced past his face. At the same time, he lashed out with his long sword again, piercing another black-robed assailant's abdomen. In the blink of an eye, Mag had evaded all 4 lethal attacks and severely wounded one of his assailants. However, he was not safe yet. A short sword was thrust toward his waist from behind, and even though he managed to evade it, a gash was still torn into his clothes. 2 flying knives hurtled past his ear, severing several strands of his hair. If he had dodged to the side any later, the knives would have penetrated his glabella. The black falcon who had been stabbed in the abdomen was in extreme pain, but he had no intention of giving up, either. As he swung his short saber toward Mag's long sword danced in the darkness, and sweat was already beading on his forehead. His body had only recovered to a 3rd-tier standard, and even though he had managed to kill 4 people in an extremely short time, he had also almost completely exhausted the soul power in his body. Furthermore, he was walking on an extremely perilous tightrope where he could lose his life at any moment. Scum like you are always ganging up on people. Thankfully, I'm not too late this time. Without anyone noticing, Lewis had appeared beside the black falcon with the wounded abdomen. He thrust his long saber forward, and its tip ran through the black falcon's back before emerging from the very same wound that Mag had inflicted earlier. The remaining 3 black falcons' hearts all jolted with shock upon seeing that. They had seen Mag walking together with a lame man earlier, but their attention had been entirely focused on Mag, so no one paid much heed to the latter. As such, it came as quite a surprise to them that he had re-emerged all of a sudden, and even killed one of their comrades. Mag took advantage of their split-second long pause to slam his palm into a nearby tree, thereby propelling himself out of the pocket that the 3 black falcons had formed by surrounding him. Immediately thereafter, he threw himself at the final remaining 4th-tier knight. A series of clashes erupted as the 2 of them engaged in battle, while Lewis took on the 2 3rd-tier knights. 10 minutes later, Mag laid the blade of his sword on the 4th-tier knight's neck, and asked coldly, "Josh sent you after me, right? You never asked stupid questions like that in the past." Lewis looked at Mag with a peculiar expression before taking a glance at the final assassin to fall. "Perhaps I've changed after becoming a father." Mag shrugged as he stowed away his long sword. He tore a strip off his clothes to bandage up the wound on his arm, then tore off another large strip, and tied it around Lewis' bleeding leg. "That's true. Children really do have a way of transforming you." Lewis nodded in agreement. Even as his wound was being bandaged up, his brows never furrowed even in the slightest. The rain was still falling, covering up all other sounds, and the blood from the battle was quickly washed away. Mag bandaged up Louis' wound before standing up, and they both smiled as they looked at each other. Their clothes were in tatters, and both of them had received different wounds. Their hair had also been plastered to their scalps by the pouring rain, giving them a very disheveled appearance. Only they knew just how perilous that battle had been. If their teamwork had even been slightly lacking, they would have been the ones to be killed. Either that, or one of the 9 assassins would have escaped, and in that case, they would have been as good as dead. Mag's chest was rising and falling drastically as a sense of complete exhaustion washed over him. He had killed 6 assassins in less than 3 minutes, completely overexerting his current body in the process. After all, there were 2 4th-tier knights as well as 2 3rd-tier magic casters among them, and any other 3rd-tier knight wouldn't have stood a chance. Of course, Louis had also performed an instrumental role during this process. He had killed that lurking cheetah on his own, and also slain the final 2 black falcons. Louis sheathed his long saber, and said, "You didn't have to take this risk. Didn't I say the same thing to you 3 years ago?" Louis also had children waiting for him at home. "Your throat had been slit 3 years ago, so you couldn't say anything on the way here." Louis shook his head in response. "You have to admit, though, that I'm still a better killer than you are." Mag chuckled. "I'm a proper businessman now, so it's only normal that I'm not proficient in killing." Louis gave a justified response. Mag looked at the bodies strewn all over the place, and said, "We need to clean up this place now so Josh and Sean's underlings won't be onto us." "I'll take care of that." Louis pulled out a small earthen bottle from his pocket. He shielded it from the rain with his hand as he took off the lid before tipping some brown powder onto the bodies. As soon as the powder came into contact with blood, green flames erupted and burned the bodies into dust in the blink of an eye. The dust was then washed away by the rain, and it was as if nothing had ever been there. "So you're telling me you're a proper businessman when you constantly carry something like that with you? You're not the type of businessman who goes around looting houses and committing murder, are you?" Mag took a couple of steps backward with his hand over his nose. Necroincineration powder was not a very common type of magic powder, it was ideal for getting rid of bodies. After such a torrential storm, even if someone could tell that a fierce battle had taken place here, it would be impossible for them to trace who had been involved in the battle. "It's not easy being a businessman nowadays, so I have to carry some things to protect myself." Louis slowly dragged his wounded leg behind him as he strode over to the next body and applied the same powder again. Soon, all 9 bodies were gone. The torrential rain washed away any trace of their existence. Without a professional magic caster on the scene, it would be very difficult to completely wipe away all signs of battle. However, it was unlikely that no one would have noticed this battle taking place. Perhaps someone would notice the aftermath tomorrow and alert the Grey Temple to this, but there shouldn't be any way for them to link this battle to "Mag, I'll fix you up when we get back. It'd be bad if you ended up becoming lame in both legs." Mag made his way over to Louis and carried him on his back as he made his way back to Mamie Restaurant. "Was Sean involved in the incident 3 years ago?" Louis asked. Mag shook his head, and replied, "I'm not sure if he was, but seeing as he sent someone to spy on you, that indicates that he wants to get involved now. He doesn't want me to reappear and present a volatile factor in his and Josh's battle for the throne. But if Josh orchestrated everything 3 years ago, and he wasn't involved at all, then why would he be concerned that you would appear again? In any case, you wouldn't side with Josh no matter what, so this should be good news to him." Louis was still confused. "That's because Sean knows that I won't side with him, either. I knew we were destined to walk different paths from the moment he disclosed his desire to start a second war among species to me. I've always advocated for world peace," Mag explained. "TCH, world peace? Who was it that was running all over the world and causing trouble everywhere?" Louis chuckled before a serious look appeared on his face as he continued, "You won't choose Josh, nor will you choose Sean, so who are you going to choose? That carpenter third prince?" This is not a choice that I have to make, is it? I'm no longer the Alex I once was, I'm merely the owner of Mamie Restaurant in Chaos City. Besides, if I really did have to choose, don't you think that Carpenter Third Prince is the best choice among the three? Mag asked with a smile. Louis faltered momentarily before nodding in response. I think you're right. The two of them returned to Mamie Restaurant and escaped detection the entire way back as there was no one else braving the rain outside. Mag closed the blinds and asked the system to get him a professional-grade first aid kit. After cleaning up Louis' wound, he stitched it up before applying some ointment and bandages. In a magical world like this, there were clearly better ways to heal a wound, but this was the best option that they currently had. After a period of rest and recuperation, the wound should heal quite quickly, and his leg should be back to full health. Who would have thought that you would learn to cook and treat wounds? I'm really curious about just what happened to you in the past 3 years. Louis aimed a curious glance at Mag. That's a secret. Mag gave a mysterious response before pouring himself a glass of beer. He took a massive sip before letting loose a sigh of satisfaction. In the Moreton manner, Geoffrey sat on a chair, and asked, "How is the blue suede textiles shop doing?" Maynard stood beside Geoffrey's desk with a respectful expression on his face as he replied, "After you agreed for Mars to join young Mistress Gloria at the blue suede textile shop, the shop's sales have not shown any marked improvements. They're still incurring losses, but they've hired a lot of staff to sort out the textiles left over from past years." Sorting out textiles from past years. Geoffrey's brows furrowed upon hearing that as he said, "They can't even sell the textiles from this year, what's the point in sorting through textiles from the past years? Is Mars also becoming a child from interacting with one?" Maynard stood respectfully off to the side and didn't say anything. He had no right to state any opinions on his young predecessor. In any case, Geoffrey was only musing to himself rather than asking for his opinion anyway. There are still over 20 days left. If she can't even manage a textiles shop well, then she has no right to become a candidate to the heirloom. Geoffrey turned back to the book he was reading and didn't say any more on the matter. Will clothing like this really be popular? In the back room in the blue suede textiles shop, there were 3 clothes designs laid out on the table in front of Mars and Gloria, and both of them were looking at the designs with uncertain expressions. Among the 3 designs, one was a strapless long dress, one was a V-neck open back dress, and the final one was a chiffon dress. The first 2 dresses were simply too revealing for Gloria's tastes. In the past, she had been extremely conservative with her dress code, and it was already a huge step for her to be able to wear a dress that could reveal her forearms now. Asking her to wear a dress that would expose her shoulders, collarbone, and even large sections of her back was simply unimaginable. Furthermore, even the other women in Chaos City would most likely find it difficult to accept such bold dresses. However, that open-back V-neck dress was simply far too luxurious to miss out on. There was a veil draped over the dress, lending it a sense of mystery and enigma. If one were to wear it to a ball, they would definitely become the center of attention. These 2 dresses really are quite beautiful, though. I feel like I would look really good if I were to wear it for myself or wear it for him to see, Gloria thought to herself as a blush appeared on her face. She quickly turned her attention to the final dress design. This dress was comparatively a lot more conservative. The sleeves were loose and hung around halfway up the arms, and there was beautiful embroidery around the collar. There was also a golden chrysanthemum embroidered on the chest to the left, which seemed to instill a soul into the design, making it difficult for one to look away. The dress wasn't very different from the styles that commonly appeared on the market, but the intricate details on the upper half of the dress made it stand out. Mars turned to Gloria with a serious expression, and said, "The third one should be a hit. As long as we promote it well, we should sell a lot of that dress. As for the first and second dress designs, I would advise you to discuss them further with Mr. Mag, young mistress. Perhaps he can alter the designs a little. Once we go into the mass production phase, there will be no turning back. We only have about 20 days left, so 3 designs is already our limit. Gloria contemplated the suggestion for a moment before nodding as she replied, "All right, I'll make a trip to Mamie restaurant tomorrow morning. In the meantime, find the best seamstress and begin production of the 3rd dress design. The seamstress doesn't have to be the most renowned one, but she must have the best skills, and be able to create the perfect dress completely in accordance with these designs with no alterations made." "All right, I'll get started on that right away." Mars nodded before exiting the room. As he departed, a smile appeared on his face as he thought to himself, "She may be a little girl, but you certainly can't underestimate her. If this plan succeeds, she'll be sure to secure her position as a candidate to the heirloom." Outside the restaurant, Mag, who had changed into a clean set of clothes, helped Louis onto a horse-drawn carriage. He handed him a large box of mooncakes as he did so, and turned to the coach driver before instructing, "Please take this drunk customer back to the tavern. Remember to help him up the stairs, he has a little difficulty when walking." I'm not drunk. I can still drink," Louis slurred as he sat in the carriage. "All right. Rest assured, I'll get him to the tavern safe and sound." The coach driver nodded in response. He normally wouldn't be taking on jobs on such a rainy day, but he was offered a lot of money, so he decided to accept the job in the end. Mag looked on until the horse-drawn carriage disappeared into the rain. The peaceful nature of his life was going to undergo a change following the events that had just taken place. Josh and Sean had been after him for 3 years. Louis' appearance was simply a catalyst that set some things into motion in advance. Thankfully, they were able to contain the situation. They had left no evidence behind, but the deaths of the cheetah and the black falcons were enough to tell Josh and Sean that he was in Chaos City. That was not good news. Even this team of assassins had almost managed to kill him. If even more powerful enemies appeared in the future, his luck might not be so good. Recovering his strength was very important, but even if he reached his former peak, the end result would only be a repeat of what had happened 3 years ago. As such, he had to accumulate power in different ways rather than solely focus on strengthening himself. He had to surround himself with allies that would make him a force to be reckoned with even in the face of Josh and Sean rather than be forced to fight on his own as he did 3 years ago. In the end, Mag wasn't Alex. He was more of a businessman than a warrior, and he knew what to do at what times in order to secure the most benefits for himself. Money isn't omnipotent, but it can make countless powerful beings lay down their lives for you. As such, earning more money is imperative, Mag thought to himself. Take the Buffett family as an example, they had no powerful beings among them, but there weren't many people on the Norland continent who dared to mess with them, as they had the support of rulers from all races, and there were countless powerful beings in their employment, creating a force that was very much to be reckoned with. Looks like it's time I approached the city lord's castle and young Mistress Shear. I may be able to become the wealthiest person in the world just from selling clothes, but money without power is not going to be enough, either. Mag entered the restaurant and locked the door. He stood beside Amy's little bed and watched her adorable sleeping face for a long time. He leaned down and kissed her on the forehead, tweaking the wound on his left arm, which throbbed with acute pain, in the process. He furrowed his brows and winced slightly before quietly lying down in his bed. In this world, you could really die if you weren't careful. The light of a new sun shone down on Chaos City, applying a golden sheen to all of the buildings. The heavy rain from the night prior had washed the entire city clean, making the tiles on the roofs glisten under the sunlight. There were still water droplets hanging off the branches and leaves of the trees, and the air was very clean and refreshing. The final traces of summer had been completely washed away by the pouring storm, and autumn had officially announced its arrival. All of the people on the streets wore vibrant smiles as if their moods had improved due to the weather. Mag opened his blinds, and a smile also appeared on his face as the sunlight shone on his chef's suit through the window. His exceptional regenerative abilities ensured that the wound on his left arm was almost fully healed in just one night. He had applied some new bandages to the wound after getting up in the morning, and it was completely unnoticeable under his chef's suit. Right at that moment, the system's voice suddenly sounded. Ding! New mission, open a branch within 5 days irrespective of location or scale, but it must be a food-themed shop. After the mission is completed, you will receive the opportunity to spin the God of Cookery upgrade wheel again with a guaranteed chance of receiving a prize. Opening a branch. Mag raised an eyebrow, and contemplated momentarily before asking, "Isn't it a bit too early? I can open a branch, but shouldn't the required facilities also be included in the prize? I need to renovate the place, and I need all kinds of kitchenware. Otherwise, what am I going to be able to do in just 5 days? Open a kebab shop." The roast kebab is a very important late-night meal option in China, and it can support an independent restaurant. I think there are no issues with that suggestion. The system gave a serious reply. Mag furrowed his brows, and said, "System, I feel like you're holding some sort of misconception about what it means to open a branch. A restaurant would only open a branch when business is very good and they have superfluous resources that would allow them to open a branch. Our business is indeed booming and warrants the opening of a new branch, but I'm the one who makes all of the dishes, especially the roast beef kebab. Without long periods of training and practice, there's no way that anyone can make kebabs that are as tasty as mine. If you asked me to open a kebab shop now, it would have to be at the expense of this main restaurant. In that case, we'd be incurring losses rather than making further profits. That is indeed a problem, but as a system, what would be the point of my existence if I only released missions that aren't challenging? I'll be embarrassed to be in the company of other systems and become their laughingstock. Do you know what it feels like to be ostracized?" The system's enraged and grief-stricken voice sounded. "I do sympathize with you, but I can't help you. Also, whether you're an embarrassment or not doesn't hinge on whether you release difficult missions. Some people were simply born to be an embarrassment, like you, system." Mag shrugged. "Nonsense. The system was created by God and is well versed in all earthly food recipes created in the past 3,000 years. At the same time, the system excels in fields such as history, science, maths, physics. There is nothing that the system isn't capable of, so what's this about being an embarrassment? If the system were an embarrassment, then what would that make everything else?" The system gave an indignant response. "System, how much for a lollipop?" Mag suddenly asked. "Half a copper coin each, with 2 as a minimum purchase." "The system also offers a buy 10 get 2 free deal," the system instantly replied. "You see, this is why you're an embarrassment among other systems." Mag rolled his eyes. "I've never seen a system that sells lollipops." The system fell into an extended period of silence. Mag broke the silence, and said, "All right, let's talk about the renovation now. I can supply the storefront, but you have to provide the renovations service to maintain a high standard in the environment of the restaurant. I'm willing to pay a renovation fee for that purpose." "What's your budget?" the system immediately asked. 1,000 gold coin at most, Mag replied. The system immediately began to rattle off questions. "What kind of shop front would you like to create? How much area does it take up? How much kitchenware do you need?" I can only give a specific quote after an evaluation. If it's only 1,000 gold coins, then I can only offer a simple renovation service without any kitchenware included in the package. 1,000 gold coins is all I can afford right now, and that's the upper limit. If it's going to be a branch, then it has to have kitchenware to reach acceptable operations standards. Otherwise, it can't even qualify as a branch." Mag wasn't going to budge. He continued, "I'll set up a 30 square meter ice cream with 2 ice cream machines. As for the renovations, I'll go with an ice and snow theme. I won't pay if it ends up being too ugly. 1,000 gold coins isn't enough. Can you add a bit more?" the system asked. "Don't try to play me for a fool." Mobai's forge was rebuilt entirely from scratch, and it only cost him 1,000 gold coins. I'm only asking for renovations on a tiny 30 square meter ice cream shop. 1,000 gold coins will be more than enough for me to hire dwarven artisans for renovations and then purchase 2 ice cream machines, Mag replied firmly. All right, 1,000 gold coins for all of the renovations in the ice cream shop as well as 2 fully automatic ice cream machines, the system spat through gritted teeth after a brief silence. Great! Aside from the renovations, I also want to discuss the matter of the ice cream combo with you. 4 flavors is already plenty for the current restaurant, but if we're opening a specialized ice cream shop, then 4 flavors won't be enough. Hence, can you allow me to access the recipes for the other ice cream flavors? Mag asked earnestly. The system can list that as one of the prizes for the Good of Cookery prize wheel. If you complete the mission, you'll have a chance to receive that prize, the system replied. All right. Mag nodded and entered the kitchen to prepare the ingredients for the morning service. Would you still like some lollipops? Buy 10 get 2 free, it's an absolute bargain, the system promoted feebly. Piss off! Mag scoffed. The system was going to be an embarrassment for the rest of its life. A horse-drawn carriage stopped in front of the restaurant, and Gloria disembarked with a paper bag in her hands. As she did so, she thought to herself, will Mr. Mag be unhappy if I ask him to alter the designs? Mag didn't even turn his head as he heard the burst of knocking on the door. He said, the restaurant isn't open yet, please come back later. Mr. Mag, it's me. I have some things that I want to consult you about. Gloria's voice sounded outside. Ms. Gloria. Mag opened the door and looked at Gloria with a hint of surprise and puzzlement on his face. Sorry for disturbing you so early. Gloria looked at Mag with an apologetic expression before offering up the designs in her hands as she said, I had some questions about the dress designs, and I knew you'd be busy once the restaurant opened for business, so I came early. Do you have some free time now? Come on in. We're partners collaborating on the same project, so you can ask me anything. Mag nodded with a smile as he stepped aside to allow Gloria into the restaurant. Thank you. A relieved and joyful look appeared on Gloria's face. The warm smile on Mag's face soothed her nerves significantly, and she made her way into the restaurant with the designs in her arms. What would you like to ask about the designs, Ms. Gloria? Were the annotations unclear, or was the seamstress unable to understand something? Mag asked with a smile. No, your annotations are impeccable, and the seamstress can understand everything. It's just that these 2 designs, Gloria pulled out the 2 dress designs, and a faint blush appeared on her face as she looked at Mag. She bit down on her lower lip, and didn't know how to explain the situation euphemistically. Mag looked at the designs for the strapless dress and the open back dress, and a smile appeared on his face as he said, your concern is that the 2 dresses are too revealing, right? No, in my opinion, both dresses are very luxurious and beautiful. I've never seen such beautiful dresses before, but, Gloria hurriedly waved her hands, and hesitated momentarily before continuing, it's just that these 2 dresses might be difficult to accept for the majority of women out there. In that case, they may not sell very well. We only have about 20 days left, and these dress designs are my only hope. So what you want me to do is alter the designs and make them more common and normal, is that right? Mag asked calmly. I respect your designs, Mr. Mag, but I also have to be responsible for all of the Blue Suede Textiles shop's employees. Gloria looked into Mag's eyes and was a little flustered, but she still stood her ground. Ms. Gloria, I really admire your imagination and creativity. In my opinion, selling ready-made clothes will be a business model that will reap you resounding success on the Norland continent. Mag looked at Gloria with a smile, and asked, but I have to ask you a question now. Let's say you had the choice of getting an item of clothing custom-made for you so everything fits perfectly, or you could get the same item of clothing ready-made, but it only has a few sizes to choose from, one of which will be slightly too large, while the next size down will be slightly too small. Which one will you choose? Gloria contemplated the choices for a moment before replying, I'd choose the custom-made one. In that case, what makes you think everyone would storm to your shop to buy your clothes if you release the same designs that they can get elsewhere? What makes you think they'll throw their money to you and make your business a profitable one in 20 days when they can get the same product that is a better fit from a seamstress? Mag asked. Gloria's eyes immediately widened upon hearing that. Mag's question was like a clap of thunder exploding in her mind. For the open back dress, I suggest you make it a limited edition item with 4 dresses per color and per size at most. The targeted demographic for this dress will be noble young mistresses like you, and they want only the best for themselves. To them, price is merely a number, so the price of this dress has to be very expensive. Only then would they feel like it's worthy to be worn by them. The best way to advertise the dress and draw interest to it would be for someone to wear it in front of them. For example, if a beautiful young woman were to turn up to a certain ball in that dress, all of the women at that ball would be curious where she had gotten such a stunning dress from, Mag continued. Gloria's eyes slowly lit up as she listened. As for the strapless dress, the target demographic will be closer to the middle-class population, but don't set the price too low, either. Set it at a price where the middle-class husbands would only buy it after an internal struggle. Don't make it too affordable, but also don't make it so far beyond their budget that they wouldn't even consider it. This is a very fine balancing act which you'll have to get right. This dress will be very popular and somewhat affordable, so don't put a limit on the number of dresses of this style released, and make sure to prepare sufficient stock. The middle-class women won't be attending as many balls and parties, so they won't have to worry about other women wearing the same dress as them during the events they attend, yet the dress will ensure that they'll stand out, Mag continued as he pointed to the other design. Gloria nodded eagerly, and it was as if stars were twinkling in her eyes as she stared at Mag. She had thought that Mag was an exceptional chef who just so happened to design clothes as a hobby, but only now did she realize that he was also a brilliant market analyst. He was extremely well versed in consumer psychology, and could explain the concepts in a very eloquent way, making the information easy for Gloria to absorb. This was an eye-opening feeling that she didn't even get from Mars. The only person in her mind that could compare was her grandfather, the legendary man who had revolutionized the business sector in Chaos City. She could sense that Mag's words were going to effect a very profound change within her, and that a door was slowly being opened up in front of her. Lastly, that chiffon dress will be the cheapest of the 3, the kind that women can buy for themselves if they just saved up for a while. This will be something that they can wear when going out or attending events. Even though the price will be lower than that of the other 2, you have to make sure that the quality does not slip, as the demographic being targeted here will be the most important one for your business in the future. However, this dress is not very different from the dresses commonly seen on the market, so the most important thing is to make your business known through the use of the other 2 dresses as. When that time comes, the concept of forging a brand will be very important, Mag continued. A brand? Gloria was perplexed. A brand is a rather abstract concept. Put it this way, when we refer to a bank, the first thing we think of is Buffett Banks. That's what a brand is, in essence. After a brand is established, brand loyalty can slowly be forged, which will draw more and more customers to you, just like how virtually all people looking to store money would go to Buffett Banks, Mag explained. So what you're saying is, we should forge a brand for the Blue Suede Textile Shop, and people will buy from us for our renowned brand even though the clothing we sell may not be too different from the other styles of clothing out there. Is that right? Gloria's eyes lit up even further as she looked at Mag. You can interpret it that way. I personally would suggest getting rid of the textiles shop part of the name. Blue Suede sounds like a very elegant and high-class brand, whereas Blue Suede Textile Shop sounds a lot more lackluster. Mag was very pleased with Gloria's ability to absorb information, but he still had to offer some advice in specific areas. I understand now. Thank you, Mr. Mag. Gloria bowed deeply to Mag before packing up her designs and departing. Perhaps she can become the queen of the fashion industry in the future. I hope this basket of eggs grows more quickly. Mag looked on at Gloria's departing figure until she disappeared into the square before entering the kitchen.